We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
Go on without me. Just go.
A good soldier never leaves a man behind.
Because I wouldn't give you 2 cents for all your fancy rules if behind them they didn't have a little bit of plain, ordinary, everyday kindness.
Life, finds a way.
Welcome to Silver Screen Biases. Each week we pick a movie off of IMDb's top 250 and dig into it. We're examining truth claims in critically acclaimed movies while also examining our own biases. I'm Nelson.
This is Jeff.
And this week,
Klaus?
the kind of close Klaus from my class? This episode is brought to you by our community on Patreon. They make this show happen, and you can help. Links to our Patreon and merchandise are in the show notes. Now back to the show.
Today, class, we are joined by special guest, Ben. Ben, show yourself.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
No, not that guy. The non-Jewish variety.
Ben, thank you for exposing yourself with us today. I'm glad you're here.
Myself.
Yeah. Welcome back. If
I'm
you
back.
guys recognize his lovely voice, Ben was with us for the Die Hard episode around this time last year.
Yeah. The definition of terror thieves.
Yeah.
Definitions of terror.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
All hail Bruce Willis.
All hail Bruce Willis.
He's retired from acting.
R.I.P.
His mind.
Professor Snape.
R.I.P. his acting career as well.
Actually, he did sell his rights to his likeness to AI, an AI company.
He sold it to AI? I didn't even know that AI had a bank account.
They do now. What are you talking about? Of course they do. AI has everything.
I didn't even know AI was a they.
Of course they're they. What do you think they are?
Yeah.
You don't know
Or
the
an
gender.
it.
Or what? Or a who?
Horton Hears
The Grinch. Ben, welcome back. We're glad you're here.
Speaking of Christmas movies.
How you been, Ben? What's happened? Anything changed in the last year since you've been here?
A few things.
Okay.
I have a son. Well, I was having a son. He just wasn't here yet.
And you're still having a son.
I'm having a daughter now.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
They got rid of
Don't
their
make a
son.
mess.
Don't make a mess.
This table just got cleaned.
All right. So my son is, I guess, did I have Frank when you guys?
Yeah, Frank was already fine.
How old is he?
Years fly. He's a year old.
Do you want your children's
then yeah.
name in the show? We can edit that out.
We can call him something else like Franklin.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Quack.
No, yeah, welcome back. And yeah, and since you and your wife are now expecting a second one,
Number 2, round 2, ding, ding, ding.
daughter.
A daughter.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, 'tis the season. We are watching Klaus. And
Actually, this is releasing Christmas Day. Merry
so,
Christmas,
so
everybody.
'tis the day.
This is releasing on Christmas?
Yeah. God bless us,
Christmas.
everyone.
Yeah. Oh, well then we should have done another movie.
This one's about Christmas.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So it should be
Yeah.
on Christmas.
Well, I was thinking like a
If you haven't
Shameless
watched
or
Klaus
something like
Red,
that.
you
Yeah.
should.
Pearl Harbor
It's
or
good.
something. It's winter adjacent.
You're winter adjacent.
Anyways, but yeah, Klaus, not to be confused with Claus
Or Krampus.
or Krampus or sauerkraut.
Did you get my kind of close Klaus from my class?
I don't know what that's from.
Ben, did
Close
you get
Klaus for my class?
that? Yeah, kind of close
Is that a
Klaus from your
Canadian
class?
thing?
Oh. How I Met Your Mother.
It sounds like it's a Canadian thing.
Oh yeah,
How I Met Your Mother.
I tried to purge all of How I Met Your Mother from my head. So
Oh.
I
wasn't
haven't
there.
watched it in a really long time. I know that I watched it all the way through, but I think
Yeah.
I fell asleep a lot.
that show just didn't
So,
sit well with
Ted
me.
Mosby's, in my opinion, best girlfriend from the series. She moves to Germany to take to go to culinary school. And she falls in love with Klaus from her class. And then they move back to New York. Ted Mosby runs into her again and moves in with them for a time, if you remember.
So he's close.
And when he meets her, he's like, "You're back in New York?" He's like, "Yeah, I moved back here with a guy I met." Who was it? She's like, "Klaus?" And he's like, "The Klaus from your class?" "Yeah." "Were you close with Klaus?" "Kinda." "So it's the kinda close Klaus from your class?" Because while they were dating, she was saying, "Yeah, it's no big deal." And then they broke up because of the distance.
Hmm.
But Actually, it
I've seen that movie before.
Actually, it was a TV show.
It was a sitcom. Ben.
No.
It wasn't just
Neil
like a really
Patrick
long,
Harris,
drawn-out
Jason
movie.
Segel,
Yeah.
the girl from American Pie.
Jason Segal was in it?
No, Jason Segel.
Oh, okay.
Steven Seagal.
Steven
that
Seagal.
guy.
Yeah.
The guy with the ponytail.
the
who
ninja.
Practices fake.
Yeah.
Fake.
Jude
martial
Kondo?
arts.
It was. It's not fake. He knew his stuff.
Acai? No.
The berry.
No. The one thing, though, with the, with
He
the
was a
hands.
fruit ninja.
Yeah, he's, I don't know if we're, like,
Krav Maga.
I'm going to go out on a limb and
That's
say
Jewish.
that if I were to fight Steven Seagal,
Steven Seagal. Not related to Jason Segel, by the way.
I could probably
Two
beat Steven
They're
Seagal
cousins.
in my current condition. If Steven Seagal walked in right now, I think I could take him in a fight. Jason Segel? I don't know.
No, he's got.
I
too
think
long.
you've got
His
them
legs are too long.
confused, Nelson.
No.
Yeah, Steven Seagal is not
He's an
a
old
threat
man.
to
Right.
anybody.
He's an old man and a fraud.
He's not a fraud.
Jason,
100% a fraud.
He's a
dude.
fraud.
Jason Segel, however,
All actors are frauds. They're acting.
Jason
it's called
Segel,
acting.
however, has the power of Muppets on his side, and I don't want to cross that line.
You do not want to mess
For
with Muppets, bro.
sure.
For sure.
For sure.
Dr. Agula.
Well, anyways, we're talking about Klaus.
Klaus.
A wonderful movie. Oh, well, I just gave my opinion of it real quickly. From 2019, Netflix.
Yeah.
It runs about an hour and 36 minutes.
Mm.
Directed by Sergio Pablo and Carlos Martinez Lopez.
Yeah.
And something to note about them, neither of them had directed before.
No, but
First movie.
Sergio Pablos, that's not his first.
You didn't pronounce the G.
Sergio.
Sergio?
Sergio.
Like the cheese.
Sergio
Sargento?
Pablos.
Sargento.
This is not his first animated feature,
No.
and it's not his first time writing or producing. It is his first directorial. It is his directorial debut. He directed he wrote and produced Despicable Me.
Mm.
Wrote and produced Smallfoot. And then this was
Is that like Littlefoot?
it's about a man who gets found by a family of Sasquatch, and they're like, they are real.
So not like Littlefoot.
It's like it's the inverted Sasquatch.
You've seen Indian in the Cupboard, right?
Yeah.
It's completely different.
And it's completely unrelated. But I'm glad we cleared that up. And then, supposed to be this year, he has a second movie that he's directing called Ember. I don't think it's coming out this year, though.
Being as we've got 16 more days.
Yeah, and all that IMDb
From recording.
all that IMDb says about it is it tells the story of Dikika, Dikika,
Mm-hmm.
a girl who embarks to receive a spark from a volcano in order to save her tribe.
She's Greek.
Sounds a little familiar. Oh, maybe she is Greek. So it's
Dikika sounds like a Greek
it's
name.
Moana, but Greek.
Greek Moana.
Yeah.
You're thinking of feta.
Is there
Greek Moana.
is there a portmanteau of Greek Moana?
Feta cheese? That's Greek.
But
Rome.
he has
Feta cheese.
he has a lot of
Goat cheese.
credentials when it comes to animation credits.
Yes. And so does Carlos. They've worked together on a lot of stuff when it comes
I
to
didn't look
animation.
up Carlos, so you can help me out with this. But Sergio Pablos,
I just did.
a Goofy movie, Hunchback in Notre Dame. He was the animator for Frollo.
He was in a Goofy movie?
Yeah.
What is Frollo?
He was the character designer and animator for Paris in the character of Paris.
The biopic of Michael Jackson's daughter.
Paris, the character designer in a Goofy movie. Hunchback in Notre Dame, he was the animator for Frollo, that's the priest, the villain. In Hercules, he was the animator for Hades.
Hey.
In Tarzan, he was the character designer, visual development artist, supervising animator for Tantor. I think that's the
elephant.
Phil Collins.
For no reason.
He
Phil
did
Collins.
Dr. Doppler for Treasure Planet. He also did character design for Tarzan 2 and Stuart Little 3.
Yeah, we should mention the sequels.
And but also Alma, Rio, Underdogs, Ferdinand, and those. So like
He's got a
some
catalog.
credits. Yeah.
But
I would say of what he's done, I think this is the most impressive work.
especially for directing. This is
This is
best
this is-
directorial.
of the movies he's directed.
This
that
is
I've
the best
seen,
one. Yeah.
My favorite,
Yeah.
hands down.
No argument. Yeah. What do you think, Ben?
I think, considering that it's the only one that he's done, I think it's
Easy.
pretty great.
Hey,
I said it was good.
This movie came out in 2019. the year before the apocalypse.
Yeah,
Same year as Ford versus Ferrari,
that's right.
and 1 year before the release of Hamilton on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Obviously that was recorded in 2016, like we've said before. But so those are the two movies that we've done in the past on this show
Right.
that have come out around the same time.
Yeah.
Klaus Nelson, is this movie based on a book or
Nope.
literature or a newspaper article or an essay or a thesis or a anything like that?
No.
Okay, cool. Moving on. Ben,
What's up, dog?
Nelson and I owe you an apology.
You do. You do owe me an apology.
I personally take zero responsibility. I leave this in your lap, Jeff.
You did make it a point to say that it was your guys' podcast earlier, so I
Yeah.
think
I'll-
unless he cuts that one.
Well, I
I'll
mean,
take this.
this is kind of his part of the podcast.
Yeah, this is true. It is true. I do prompt this.
Don't worry, I blame both of you equally.
Ben,
Yep.
we ask these questions to all of our guests
All
when
of
they
them?
come on.
Wait.
No,
You
no,
asked to all of
I
them?
am getting there,
Every
Ben.
single one of them?
I am about to publicly apologize.
You asked them to all
I
of
am
them.
about to.
Right, but you need to
I
correct
am
the statement
about.
because you said that
I am
you
a-
asked them to all of them, and you haven't asked them to all of them.
Hey,
Isn't that right, Jeff?
Netanyahu.
Hey,
Netan-
no, I'm not Netanyahu because I'm
Netanyahu?
speaking the truth.
Netan-
Okay,
Yahoo.
Yahoo!
I'm about to apologize. We asked these questions to all of our
some
Many
of
of
them, almost all of them.
listeners. We forgot to ask Ben these questions
It's
on
okay.
our podcast, and it wasn't until after the episode released
That Ben
When-
pointed
and
it out.
Ben listened to the next episode,
I'll listen to a few of them just to
and
be sure.
and he soon realized that we asked everyone after Ben,
Before and after.
before and after. That's right, because
Well, everyone
Sarah
before
Taylor
is
was on.
one person.
Yeah, Sarah Taylor was on before you, and then everyone after.
Before and
So
after.
Ben, Jeff, I apologize
Okay, buddy.
for not asking you these questions.
I, however, double down and will not ask you these questions.
I wouldn't
In
trust
fact, I
you if
think
you
we
did.
move on.
All right, go for it.
Oh,
Okay,
oh,
hit me,
that would
Jeff.
create some.
Don't do anything you would regret. Just tell me, ask me questions.
So nervous,
I got you.
Ben.
Yep.
What's your political bias?
I would say that if we're going by classification, I would be libertarian. I'm not super involved in politics beyond what I have to be. I mean, I listen to some podcasts regularly to stay up to date, but I'm not actively in the conversation. Basically, I just believe that government should be very small, if existent at all, and that most things would be handled better by the free market and by people working together individually rather than
Under coercion.
under coercion and rules made by somebody who doesn't necessarily have a clear understanding of everything that happens in the from sea to shining sea
Yeah.
United States.
Are you as radically libertarian as Jeff?
I don't think me and Jeff have actually had the conversation about Molyneux.
I'm so libertarian.
I think by that definition, I think that means that I am more libertarian than Jeff.
Yeah. Are you as radically libertarian as I am?
No.
Okay.
I see.
So you're less than me then,
So I see.
because I'm way more libertarian
Yeah.
than Nelson.
Yeah, I see the.
Jeff makes me look like a communist.
Yeah, I see the merit to
Yeah.
some government establishments as they are now. I see that the intended merit,
Right.
not necessarily the functional merit. But I would be open to alternatives.
Okay.
So I'm not necessarily like a anarchist, where I guess I don't know enough to be an anarchist. I haven't dove politically deep enough to be.
You're like agnostic towards
Yeah.
the state.
Yeah,
Not convinced it's necessary.
it's definitely not necessary, but I'm not convinced that all of the aspects of the government are inherently bad.
I got you. Okay.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate your answer. That was incorrect, though. The answer we were looking for is dictatorship.
Yeah.
I'm down for a dictatorship if
No.
if it's me, you know.
If it's me.
I'd be a good one, which is
Wow.
what the majority of people who say that they
Every dictator thinks they're going to be a good one.
Yeah. Same thing with every communist, which end up being dictators most of the time.
Yeah.
As a
If they don't
libertarian,
get put up
I
in
just
office.
find a lot of flaws in dictatorship. So that's all I'm going to say. Ben, what's your religious bias? How would you describe yourself when it comes to beliefs of things spiritual or metaphysical or ghosts?
Okay. I'm a Christian.
Yeah. Do you believe in ghosts, though?
Yeah,
I
get to the
don't
real meat of the answer.
think so. I believe in the spiritual realm as it's portrayed in the Bible.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think I believe in
Unfinished business,
yeah,
souls,
paranormal activity kind of stuff.
Okay. What are you coming down on Sasquatch?
Oh, I never thought it was Sasquatch.
Gigantopithecus was a real.
Right here,
Easy.
right
Hey,
here.
yeah, hold on.
Was-
we do not curse on this show, Ben.
I'll say it again. Gigantopithecus.
If you ask my son, is Sasquatch real? Without even a moment's hesitation, yes, it's Gigantopithecus. And he's 6.
As any 6-year-old should be.
Can I get a kiss of this? What is it called?
Gigantopithecus.
Tipithecus.
Okay, make sure you say the tip.
I'm not
Linked
Latin.
below
Get the
for the
tip.
curious. Basically, it's a large ape that is native to North America and is believed to be extinct.
North
Can I get
America and Southeast Asia.
Can I get a kiss of this?
If you want.
That's cool. But okay, all jokes
Yes,
aside.
nicely.
All jokes aside.
Sorry,
religious. Well, how would you describe yourself?
So I'm a Christian. I wouldn't say I'm a denominational Christian, like Catholic or Lutheran or Protestant or Methodist. I think our church.
There's more. Keep naming
Scientologist.
Yo, I saw Scientology propaganda for the first time, dude.
Oh, yeah?
them. In what format?
Crazy. It was a commercial.
I was watching
First of all,
Top Gun Maverick.
no. So we were okay.
On the
So
side of the jet.
Yeah.
do you guys know who Miss Rachel is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she a Scientologist?
No.
Oh.
Maybe, yeah, because she could be. I have no idea. But we were watching her on YouTube,
What'd you
Yeah.
learn?
and one of the commercials was a full on like Scientology.
Scientology.
Yeah,
That's
sponsored by,
fascinating.
and it was basically like the trailer for a movie.
Yeah.
Like it's super well done. They have so much money.
Oh,
Wasn't that one with
Tom
John
Cruise.
Travolta in it?
No,
That's
Apocalypse.
interesting. Okay.
Apocalypse Earth?
Apocalypse Now,
No. There's
Apocalypse Tomorrow.
a legitimate Scientology movie starring John Travolta. I can't think of it. Hold on.
Maybe he's not singing. I don't want to see it.
Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth sounds
It'd be a great off
kind of
for us.
lame.
So-
Scientology.
I tried
Is
to
it-
watch it.
It's
It's garbage.
like so. It's a movie produced by Scientologists, or
Yeah.
it's a movie with Scientologist themes. We'll
It's
get
a-
back to your question here in a second.
It's a movie based off of the book of the same name by L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology.
Who happens to be
And this book is part.
absolutely bonkers.
And this book, Battlefield Earth, is part of the Scientology
Universe.
collected works and informative documents.
Like the Marvel Universe,
We should watch that. We should watch that.
which is fictional.
If you'd like us to cover Battlefield Earth, subscribe to our Patreon and submit it as a movie that you'd like for us to cover for the Off 250.
All right, Ben. You said you were a Christian,
I am a
non-denominational. Anything else you'd like to add when it comes to religious beliefs? Have you always been a Christian? Is this something that you've grown up that way, or
Definitely raised in church, but had to kind of find my own way at some point, which I
you
think is
can
healthy.
go your own way? Linkin Park.
It's not Linkin Park, isn't it? Like,
It's Mike Shinoda.
isn't it Whitesnake?
Are those the ones that lit a club on fire and killed a bunch of people?
I think so. Is it Whitesnake or is it
Rob Zombie.
It's definitely not Rob Zombie.
Speaking of, great Christmas figure this time of year.
The director for Battlefield Earth, just a quick aside,
Please say
Steven
Rob
Spielberg.
Zombie.
worked on both A New Hope and The Phantom Menace.
Are those
Interesting.
Scientology movies?
They now are, and they're now in the same universe as Battlefield Earth. Okay, so you grew up in a house, going to church and stuff, but you said there was a season in your life where
Sure. Definitely a season of my life where I did not really partake or believe as I could have or should have. But through really good friends, really good mentors, stick with it.
Awesome.
Neat.
Super neat.
For the listeners that don't know any of us personally, we know you from church. We go to church
Sure.
with you now, and stuff. And
That's where I recognize him from.
yeah. He's in the band. We play on the worship team together and stuff. And
And
Me and Nelson are really good.
Ben and I used to be co-leaders for the same small group of young men. Now
They
graduated from high
graduated.
school.
Graduated. Jeff, you're so good at the
put
drums.
all my scotch back that you've drank. Put it back in the glass right now.
Jeff, of all the people that I played drums with a couple weeks ago, you are by far one of them.
Can't argue with that. All right. Well, speaking of drums, Ben,
So, buddy.
how would you describe yourself when it comes to the silver screen? Whether it's a favorite director, if you have a single favorite movie, if it's a genre. How when people ask you, Ben, what's your favorite movie? How would you answer that?
So I was raised on Disney movies, and Veggie Tales.
Hey.
So I do like movies. I've kind of had a harder time keeping up with them, based just solely on life.
Because you're a grown-up now.
Because I'm an adult. Right. But
Jeff and I are not adults.
Yeah, we choose not to.
for the longest
We
time,
started this project so that we wouldn't have to be adults.
Perpetually.
you're actually avoiding it quite well. I would say most people don't think you're an adult.
Nuh-uh, you are.
Exactly. There you go, buddy.
Got him. I know you are. Who am I?
Like your
I remember
bologna
you
and
were
cheese
glue.
sandwich after
What's
this.
the last movie you've seen?
Klaus.
What's the last movie? What's the last movie you've seen for the first?
For the first time? Man, that's a hard question.
Was it Klaus, or have you seen a movie since you watched Klaus?
So, Klaus, I did see it for the first time when you guys asked me
To watch it
do
for the
this
first time.
episode. Yeah.
Apart from Klaus, though.
I know it's hard. I haven't really watched like a bunch of movies recently.
Yeah.
What's the one?
Babe, Big in the City. Babe, Pig in the City. I swear.
Babe, Big in the City.
Strike
Babe.
that. Reverse it.
Yeah. I'm not very well known here, but I'm big in the city.
Yeah.
Man, Hacksaw Ridge. I saw
Oh,
yeah,
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield's so good.
You've not seen that one?
He's
no?
a
No,
great.
it is good.
He's a great.
It
It's on the
seems like
250.
the kind of thing that would be
It's on
a
the
movie
250.
I'd watch. You know, it's about a guy that was conscripted and refused to fight.
It's on the top 250.
Wait, did
He
was he
wasn't
conscripted?
conscripted. He
He
Volunteered to not go fight?
He volunteered to be a medic, and
That's
they put him
the
on.
premise of the movie. Now,
And they put him on the front lines.
He
wanted-
took religious exemption to taking a life, but not saving one, so he became a medic.
Sure.
But Andrew
like my boy
Garfield
Connor.
is dope.
Best Spider-Man of all time.
One of my favorite.
Certainly one of the
actors, for
Spider-Men
sure.
of all time.
Yeah.
That is. facts.
My favorite movie is Odd Thomas. It's not
Never
a
even heard of
super
it.
well known
I'm looking it up right now.
movie. It's got the guy in it who. Okay,
Give me
so
the elevator pitch.
elevator pitch.
I hate it.
His parents died. I think his parents died.
Have you seen this movie?
The main character, his parents died. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's what it is. So he experienced a lot of death.
Yeah.
The premise is that the more death you experience, the easier it is for you to see it. Because he's seen so much death in person, he sees death
Dead
as an
people?
entity. He sees dead people. He sees there's a name for them, but they cause bad things to happen that cause people to die.
Gremlins.
So he's like a detective or like a police consultant that helps solve murders or stop murders or
So 2013.
sure.
Anton Yelchin.
Anton Yelchin. Yeah,
He
that's-
died.
He's dead. Yeah, he did not see that.
Drove
one
into
coming.
a tree.
But it's a super good movie. Twist
the
ending.
tagline for this movie is, I might see dead people, but then, by God, I do something about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Is it?
I'm sorry. I've never heard of
or is
that,
it
and that
good?
sounds terrible. Wait,
So
if it's your
it's-
favorite, I'll check this out.
It's mildly cheesy. I wouldn't say it's super cheesy.
Link below.
It's got a super twist ending.
Don't spoil it.
I won't spoil it.
Ben,
but it's really good.
For Nelson
I like
and
it a
I
lot.
to review this
Sure.
on the Off 250 podcast, we need you to subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, and submit
Just,
it.
just
as a-
for like a couple years.
yeah.
And then submit this film on that list. So if you could do that real quick, we'll pause.
But I tell you what, Ben, if this ever comes up for the Off 250,
You're on that episode.
we would love for you to come and discuss it.
I would do it as long as you ask me those questions.
No, this is
What
the only
question?
time you did it. I don't know what he's talking
Don't
about.
worry about it.
It's called Odd Thomas, and there's a character in it named Fungus Bob, and it's got the dorkiest tagline ever, and now I have to see it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You do have to watch
I
it.
need
It's
to
good.
see it. How did you
Link
find
below.
this movie?
I'm pretty sure it was on Netflix once.
Okay.
And I was just, or zoom through Netflix and found it.
And you would say it's your favorite movie?
It's definitely one of my favorites. So
I love
to continue the answer to the question, how I feel about movies, I would say that I have a wide range of movies that I like.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of movies that I don't like.
Right.
I think movies definitely have the capability of being crazy corny, super played out. I don't really like sequels. I definitely hate threequels and fourquels and fivequels.
Yeah.
There seems to be, or there's definitely a hard
How do you feel about quills, just in general?
quills, like porcupine quills.
No, like Peter Quill.
Peter Quill.
Peter Quill's cool.
Yeah.
I like superhero movies, but as we are right now, well, I'm a DC person, and so far Marvel's been kind of running the game
DC can't get
on superhero movies, so I'm kind of disappointed in superhero
Have
movies.
you been watching my favorite superhero series, Invincible?
I have not. That's the cartoon, right?
You should.
I have not, and I can.
Yeah.
Is it something that Frankie could watch?
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
Well, then,
Absolutely
I cannot
not.
as often as I'd like.
Absolutely not.
No, I think it's. I mean, I can't think of a single thing. That's,
But once you're caught up with Invincible, you let me know, and I'll hook you up with the physicals, and you can read the comics. It is hands down.
and I will also give you
my
a physical.
favorite.
Hands down.
Hands up.
Hands down.
Alrighty. Anyways, any more questions?
So many.
Turn your head and
The more questions we ask, the more questions we have.
Okay, this movie, Klaus,
Such is life.
has some pretty notable
It's in
cast members in it.
Yeah.
Naming them off how they're listed on IMDb, not in any order outside of that. Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah.
Um,
And I thought that was David Spade.
no, those are two different people.
Oh, I'm aware. I thought the voice.
They
was
kind of
David
look the
Spade.
same if you close your eyes.
Jason Schwartzman he's in Fargo.
Yep.
He's in The Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbirds.
Who is he in Fargo?
He's in Asteroid City.
No, he's in the show Fargo, not the movie.
He's
Fargo.
in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Right?
He's what? I'm
You
waiting.
said he's in Fargo,
Yes,
the show, not the movie. Correct?
I said he's in 11 episodes of Fargo.
Did you say that?
No, I just said he's in Fargo.
Okay.
But he's in 11 episodes. He's in Sing 2.
I think it was season 2 or 3 of Fargo.
Sing too.
There's no really way of knowing. The French Dispatch.
If we're
he's in
faster,
Klaus.
if we're slowing.
Yeah.
A Very Murray Christmas.
With Steve Murray.
No, William Murray. Saving Mr. Banks.
Bill Murray?
Yeah.
Yes.
Saving Mr. Banks is excellent.
It's a great movie. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Yeah.
Very prominent actor.
Yeah. He's done a lot of Wes Anderson films as well.
Yeah. I mentioned some of those. Just keep up, Russell. So Jason Schwartzman he plays Jesper, the main character.
Jesper?
Not to be confused with Jasper, who doesn't exist in this movie. He's the main. Yeah. So the next up is you have J.K. Simmons, not you.
J.K. Simmons.
Who's voicing Klaus?
That's right.
Isn't he the Nationwide guy now?
He is a Nationwide guy.
Nationwide has like a dozen different insurance, different commercial things that
He's a bald guy with glasses.
Yeah. He's the dude. He's the
you
dude
want
from
pictures of Spider-Man?
Yeah. He's
J. Jonah
the
Jameson.
Bugle. There it is. I couldn't get the name right. Yeah. J.K. Simmons. He's in everything.
He's in Whiplash.
He's in Invincible.
He's in Juno. That's about it, I think.
He's in Invincible. We were just talking about Invincible.
I don't think so.
No, he is.
Kind of a bit part.
He's Omni-Man.
He's a what man?
He's Omni-Man, and he voices Omni-Man in the Mortal Kombat game.
He is everywhere, man.
Let's see what else. He's
John
in Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Was he really?
Marmaduke.
Was he Marmaduke?
No, he was Zeus. I've never seen Marmaduke. Ghostbusters Afterlife.
You're naming like all of, like you're naming
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Rest in peace to
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
roles of his.
I remember that episode. Rest in peace.
The director the director
with,
passed away.
Ryan Reynolds? Is that the one?
No, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's Andy Samberg.
No, I know that one.
Okay.
Adam Sandler's son.
No.
You said rest in peace.
Yeah, the gentleman from Brooklyn Nine-Nine passed away. The actor, the main sergeant.
Oh, Andre.
Andre, yeah, he passed away this week.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right.
I've not seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but like, the episodes I've seen, I liked his character. So
That's pretty good.
What are some
just
of the
over here.
roles
Lison's just over here laughing as we're talking about this guy passing away.
He died, Nelson.
21 Bridges.
Hey, can you name some of the roles that J.K. Simmons is like really well known for?
I'm naming them.
No, you're naming things he's been in, but these aren't like...
You can also bring it up a list, Nelson.
Yeah, do it yourself. Libertarian.
Zack Snyder's Justice League. He's Commissioner Gordon. He's in a movie called SpongeBob SquarePants.
He's in the SpongeBob SquarePants
He's in La
movie?
La Land.
All right, I would say that probably the roles
Zootopia.
he's best known for...
He's in Kung Fu Panda 3. That's notable.
I think the roles he's currently best known for would probably be Whiplash, Spider-Man, and Invincible.
I guess. Phineas and Ferb.
Nationwide is on your side.
True.
Murder of a Cat.
All right, let's move on. Who else is in this movie?
Will Sasso.
Yeah. I know him most from Loudermilk and Mad TV.
What the heck is Loudermilk?
It's a really great
opposite of
show
softer cheese.
about drug addiction and alcoholism.
Sounds great.
The main character, Loudermilk, is a retired music critic.
This is his name?
Yeah, I can't remember his first name. His last name is Loudermilk.
Oh, okay.
And Will Sasso plays his roommate. And the two of them... Will Sasso is his sponsor.
He actually plays Ben Burns.
And Loudermilk runs a AA meeting.
Sure.
And it's just...
He is Loudermilk?
No, he's Loudermilk's roommate.
Gotcha.
Loudermilk is played by the main character from Office Space. Really good show. Recommend it. Link below.
Schwarzenegger. So yeah, Will Sasso. We got a couple more here. Norm Macdonald.
This was his last role before he passed.
Didn't let anybody know.
And that was a great
casting.
Yeah, it just
good.
His voice is iconic.
Yeah.
And the character was
him.
Was Norm Macdonald.
Oh yeah.
It was great, and it didn't feel out of place.
No. I know you're not a huge Norman fan.
I'm a fan. I just don't think he's hilarious.
All right.
He is a comedian.
He's kind of known for one thing: stand-up comedy. You're a fan that doesn't think he's hilarious. Kind of what comedians do. I would say you're not a big Norm Macdonald fan.
I'm a
I think he's a cool guy.
Look, yeah, and the stuff I've heard, like you've shown me stuff, like I've watched stuff, we've talked about him before in episodes. I've liked his stuff. I thought it's smart, but I've thought it is like clever, but like he's not a comedian that I personally am knee slapping and I'm busting a gut at. When I'm watching his stuff, I'm going, oh, that's really smart. Like that's clever. Oh, I appreciate
the art,
that.
but he's not.
Yeah, like for a comedian, he doesn't really make me laugh. He makes me think and go.
That's kind of like
that's
how
very
I feel
clever.
about Bill Cosby's newer stuff.
I just couldn't stay awake for that kind of stuff.
Neither could the.
That's the joke, Jeff.
Hey.
But yeah, so just I like him.
Yeah.
I liked him, but like I just, as far as stand-up comedians go, he's not my cup of tea. But I don't think he's not bad. He's good. He's very good at what he does.
I think he's quite possibly the greatest of all time.
Okay, cool. I don't think he's the funniest comedian, but he's smart. He's a very good writer. He's a very good writer of jokes.
I think he's both a brilliant writer and naturally funny.
In this
I would
movie
say
specifically,
unnatural.
for this character,
It was perfect.
it was pristine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Perfect casting.
Pristine.
Yeah.
I agree. We've got Joan Cusack.
I thought she was great in this. The thing that I think what I know Joan Cusack for most is probably School of Rock. She's the principal.
You're thinking of Jack Black. Jack
Nope.
Black's in School.
No,
of Rock.
she's the principal in School of Rock, and she gets drunk off of like a sip of beer.
Joan Cusack is Jack Black's alter ego.
They do
And
work
she's
really well
John
together.
Cusack's sister, correct?
Daughter,
That can't be right.
mother, cousin.
Relative? They're related.
They could be. Her siblings, Susie, John, and Anne, and Bill. Yeah, they're siblings. Yeah, no, she was great. I know her from. There's a movie.
She was in Working
9
Girl.
months. 9 months.
And
Her
Rose
and
Point
John
Blank.
Cusack are both in that movie.
Really? Do they play siblings?
Wait, actually, is it? Hold on. I'm double checking this because I get John Cusack and Hugh Grant mixed up.
I get John Cusack and Nicolas Cage and stuff.
And it's okay. It's not John Cusack.
Joan or
It's
John?
Hugh Grant.
John.
Yeah.
So there's a movie called 9 Months, and it's Hugh Grant, Joan Cusack, Tom Arnold, one other notable cast member.
Just one?
Well, one additional, Rashida Jones,
Sheila
Yeah, she was great in
Jones.
this.
from The Office,
Yeah.
but more from Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
She more episodes of Parks and Rec.
Yeah, Rashida Jones is...
Ann Perkins.
Ann Perkins.
Yeah.
You know where I know Rashida Jones from first? Is Freaks and Geeks.
Judd
What did you
Apatow.
call me?
I called you a freak.
I've not
And a
seen
geek.
Freaks and Geeks.
Pretty accurate.
Very good. I recommend it.
Judd Apatow's great.
Yeah. I think that's about all the names in this that you probably know.
I can say more names, though.
Yeah, but that they would know.
Oh. 8.2 out of
Good
10 on
times.
IMDb.
8.2.
As of recording, it stands at 175 on the top 250.
Yeah.
Nelson, does
Boy.
this film have an
Do I? Boy, do I, Jeff.
history 250? Action. We need to
Jeff,
start
we've
scripting
been doing this
out.
for over a year, and you wouldn't know it. Debuted at 119 in 2019 when it debuted. It climbed to 157 in January 22nd. January 2022, I should say. From February to March of 2022, it had a single day drop of over 50 points.
You know why, right?
No.
No, me neither.
It climbed back up to its current position.
Do we actually know why it dropped, though?
I'm going to take a look and see if I can figure some things out there.
What day did it drop?
Overnight, when rolling into March, February to March, it just boom, dropped.
Because it wasn't Christmas.
So it just climbed steady,
It-
steady, and then single day.
But
50
for it to
points.
drop would mean multiple people rated it at a level lower. So it had nothing to do with Christmas. It means that a lot of people watched it and then rated it.
Okay, so
At a
they watched it when they weren't in the Christmas spirit because it wasn't Christmas. That's
Oh,
their fault.
That's actually good.
Yeah, on the 28th of February 2022, it was at 157, and then on the 1st of March, the very next day, you gave it away. It was 200.
Nice.
That was so
That was
smooth,
really
dude.
good. That was really nice. 95% on the tomato meter, 96 audience. Nelson, did this movie have a budget?
How
Budget was
much
$40 million in
40
2019,
mil,
which would
right?
be 48 today. In 3 years,
Money
40
printing.
million has
The
become-
answer's money printing.
always.
I was ready for it.
Although
Money printing.
some would tell you that it's a result of corporate greed.
Except they
In the last 3 years,
Don't
corporations have been uncharacteristically greedy, and that's why 40 million, 48 today. But don't worry, thanks to the Biden administration, corporations have been less greedy, and so the rate of inflation has come down.
And this episode to you today is brought to you by Joe Biden.
That's right.
And if
not
you don't-
him himself because he doesn't know what's going on.
That's right.
But he is right
The
behind
Biden
you right
administration.
now, sniffing your neck.
Your hair.
Go ahead, take a
He
look.
doesn't like necks.
There he is.
There
And
he-
ice cream.
And there he will be.
Listener, if you look behind you and Joe Biden was there, let us know.
Run.
Please tell us. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Serpentine.
Did
Pretty-
anyone from our Patreon Peanut Gallery
Not a
have any
single
comments
one.
or- No.
Guys, come on, chime in here. Let us know what you think about these movies.
Yeah.
We want to know.
Such
Yeah.
good movies.
Give us, and there's also a spot to tell us what we got wrong.
That's right.
So give us feedback on previous episodes, and we will feature you on episodes.
We love being
Unless they
told
roast
why
me.
we're wrong.
Unless they roast me, then we'll
We love
get
it.
you on here twice.
We love being told why we're
I
wrong.
wrote
Yeah.
Jeff Constantine.
In a quick summary of the movie,
Yeah.
this movie is about the son of a postman, which is now what I'm going to be using as a curse.
You
son of a postman.
You son of a postman! You Jesper!
You just delivered my mail.
He doesn't want to be a postman, so he does everything
does.
in his entirety to sabotage him in the post academy,
Yeah.
to not go further in the post future.
By doing everything I'd like to
future.
point out that FedEx does
Right.
on
So-
a consistent basis.
Also,
Very much doing a great job at being what we know as delivering of packages.
can I just say that this is like a disgusting case of nepotism? Like, I don't have a problem with nepotism, right? Because oftentimes, if you are raised by somebody that this is their whole life, you're going to learn a lot of it by osmosis. Like, I've learned a lot of sales from my dad.
Just putting your head on it and absorbing it.
That's right. But in this particular case, the kid refused to learn, seemed to go out of his way to do it poorly, and then his dad's like, you know what, just to spite you, I'm sending you to Smearensburg.
Smearensburg.
And the people of Smearensburg deserve better than the guy that doesn't want to do the job.
Do they, though?
So he goes to Smearensburg,
which is
which
actually
I have
misspelled real place.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Smearensburg.
split some facts, Ben.
Smearburg?
Smearburg is a real place. Is it an Arctic type place?
Yeah, it's an island. It's a port island.
Islands are more tropical, Ben. I think you're mistaken.
Islands are pretty much everywhere. Not always in the tropics. Otherwise, like, what is the UK?
A country.
Also an island.
Can't be both, Ben. All right.
No man is an
so
Smearenburg should be
while
a
he's
place.
on the island, he has the responsibility of shipping 6,000 letters, or he has to be there for a year or ship 6,000 letters.
No, he's got to do both.
Oh,
He has to do 6,000
both
letters in a
year. Okay.
Yeah. Or be cut off.
And then he gets to come back to his silk sheets.
So Smearensburg, with an S, is where the movie takes place. Smearenburg, without the S, is a whaling settlement on Amsterdam Island in northwest Svalbard. It was founded by the Danish and Dutch in 1619 as one of Europe's northernmost outposts, with the local bowhead whale population soon decimated and whaling developed into a pelagic industry. Smearenburg was abandoned around 1660.
There you go, buddy. I know my Wikipedia.
Can I read
That's
you
what's up,
an
man.
interesting fact real quick?
You just did, Nelson. That was it.
That was my interesting.
That's all we had time for.
You just had all the
So
information.
there's apparently a myth about Smearenburg.
The real
They
place.
The real
never
Okay.
had any mail.
The size of Smearenburg has been greatly exaggerated by many authors. William Scoresby claimed 200 to 300 ships and 12,000 to 18,000 men visited Smearenburg during the short summer season. The Norwegian explorer Fridtjof Nansen made similar claims, stating that hundreds of ships anchored along the flat of Smearenburg, where 10,000 people visited a complete town with stalls and streets. Beside the try works,
Like for the
smithies,
bathroom?
and workshops,
Just like an open
there were
panel?
churches, shops, fortifications, gambling dens, and even brothels. Such claims have no basis in reality, as noted above. No more than 15 ships and 400 men would have visited Smearenburg during its peak in the 1630s. There were no shops, churches, or brothels, though there was a single fort with
Dang.
2 guns.
I really like broth.
Despite the results of archaeological excavations that took place in the period 1979 to 1981, modern authors still sometimes repeat the fabulous legends told of Smearenburg.
Like Klaus.
The 29 animated film Klaus takes place in the town of Smearensburg on a distant northern Scandinavian island, an unintentional misspelling, according to the producer, Sergio Pablos.
It's interesting because the names sound very similar. I wonder if there's a connection. So while he's there, he meets a lovely little lady, a butcher of fish at the time.
Yeah, fishmonger, if you
She's
will.
a sushi person.
Yeah, and he finds a way to get kids to write letters to this guy that has a bunch of toys in his house. And there starts the relationship with him and this guy that's name is Klaus.
Klaus.
And you start like that.
The kind of close Klaus from my class.
I was excited to watch this movie. Nelson, you've talked highly about this for a while.
Yes.
Um,
It's a favorite in my house.
I don't remember it coming out.
It was an immediate classic in my house. We watched every year.
It can't be a classic. It's too young.
You're too young.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But
For that attitude.
this movie moved me.
Ow.
Oh.
No,
Physically.
emotionally moved me.
Aw. Jack.
I loved this
Yeah,
film.
it's so charming.
It's
Beautifully done.
it's what you would want from a holiday movie.
Yes.
Like
Actual
it's
good morals.
like a movie like just that the quintessential like make you feel good, make you want to be a better person and change the world in this time of the year. Like this movie did that.
By
Yeah.
not just believing in Christmas.
No, it actually negated. It actually didn't even focus on more of the spiritual, metaphysical, like mythological aspect. It focused on just being a good person
Yeah.
and how much just being authentically yourself and being genuinely nice to someone can. I loved it.
However, as far as Christmas movies go, it doesn't tell the Christmas story.
You mean like the nativity story?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not in there at all.
You know, Godzilla, Sasquatch, and how they fought with King Herod.
Yeah, and the three ghosts. And,
I've heard this one before.
three ghosts on Christmas Eve. Jesus was born in a manger on Nakatomi Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't mention any of that.
And then Professor Snape showed up.
Yeah.
And say, yippee-ki-yay.
Mother, father.
Yeah. So, okay, before we get to you, Nels, because you've seen this before, Ben, you said this is your first time watching it.
Sure.
What was your experience with this? Like, did it, like, was it...
Did you watch it with Frank?
I did not.
Did you watch it with your wife?
No, both of them were asleep.
You could have, did you wait? You could have woke them.
Get up!
Guys, get up, we're watching a movie.
Klaus.
Okay, my wife is pregnant and my son is 1.
Okay, so you could have watched it with all three of them.
There's really no waking them when they're asleep. It's better to let sleeping dogs lie.
They're dogs now.
They're my dogs.
You crossed a line, Ben.
My dogs.
You have an actual dog.
WGS.
Yeah.
WGS.
Wags.
Wags.
My dogs.
What'd you think, Ben? What'd you think of this film?
It's a great movie.
Awesome.
It's so good.
It is. It really is.
So generally speaking, I'm not a big Christmas person.
Yeah.
And
Except
even,
Die Hard.
Except for Die Hard. Die Hard's the best Christmas movie. Which, by that sentence, means that I don't really find the majority of Christmas movies that appealing.
Right.
Especially the ones that come out of Hallmark.
But yeah, okay, but not a big movie fan, not a big Christmas, not a big Christmas movie fan. What'd you think?
Refreshing as far as Christmas movies go.
Yeah.
So one being a Christian, the general theme of most Christmas movies is not the actual Christmas story. It's Santa and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. While some of them are pretty good, like I like Tim Allen's Santa Claus.
The first one.
First one. Second one's not good. Third one's even worse.
The series is not great.
I'm not a big fan of sequels.
The series is not great either.
Or threequels. And then
second season was terrible.
So I'm not a huge fan of that portion of the story. Me and my wife have debated on whether we're going to lie to Frank as he grows up.
I'll do it.
I assume
I recommend handling Santa Claus.
Hold on, listeners. If
your kids are listening, Santa Claus is totally
also,
real.
and listeners, if you believe in the spirit of Santa Claus, I think your refrigerator's running. Okay, go, Nels.
I recommend handling Santa Claus the same way that my family handles Sasquatch, which is that Jen and I don't believe Sasquatch is real, but it's fun to pretend, and here's the evidence.
Sure.
And only one of my children has become convinced that Sasquatch is real, despite us saying, yeah, probably not, though.
He's arguably the best.
If we can pause on this real quick, because I think we have not talked about this before, and I think there's some discussion we could have here.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household where my parents did the Santa Claus thing.
Yeah.
Looking back, I have no issue with it. Looking ahead
Did
to
your
how
mom, your dad would come in dressed as Santa Claus.
no,
mom
they
would be like,
they didn't go to those lengths. There was just presents under the tree that marked from Santa. Like they didn't go to extra lengths to get me and my sisters to believe.
How long did that go on for?
I came to my own realization probably later elementary.
Despite us knowing that Santa was fun to pretend, my mom continued to have presents from Santa under the tree until I was well into high school.
No, once we came to just a realization of, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So with that being said, the idea of a mascot for Christmas or like this legendary kind of mythos, I don't hate it. I'm not going to squash it.
Do you know it's less than 100 years old?
I didn't. But what bugs me the worst, and like I think the more main reason why Lindsay and I will not be doing Santa as like, okay, Santa's like the actual like he's coming to our house tonight type of thing, is the fact that like there are many kids that will get gifts that say from Santa, and they'll be really great gifts. There'll be iPods, there'll be iPads, there'll be like, and then you'll have other kids who will also get gifts from Santa, and there'll be socks. There'll be because socioeconomically, families can only afford different things, and which that's fine.
Yeah, I do.
That ruins the idea of like, he got a TV from Santa.
Santa likes them more than
like that creates a whole nother level of like self-awareness that's not needed. So for that reason, I struggle with Santa.
I have some specific follow-up questions, if I may.
Nah, we don't do those. Yeah, go ahead.
Have you told your daughter that Santa Claus is, in fact, not real?
Yeah.
You already have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she's 2, but she's at a point, we dialogue with her. We were at the point where we can start to, not reason. You can't reason with a toddler. But, like, we're starting to have...
It doesn't get easier, by the way.
No, I know. But we're having conversations.
Reasoning with children is always hard.
we can have back and forth.
Yeah,
we can banter. We've mentioned it to her, and we say, okay, she knows Santa. She's gotten her picture taken with Santa, and we describe him as a mascot.
Okay.
And we go, Santa represents the spirit of joy for all the world. But for us as Christians, we believe and we celebrate Christmas because of baby Jesus. So if you were to ask my daughter why we celebrate Christmas, she'll go, baby Jesus, birthday cake, presents. She'll say that in that order. So for her, she knows of Santa.
Yeah.
She's seen Santa. She went and visited Santa and the reindeer at Grandpa's Cheese Barn in Ashland.
Sure.
But she knows that gifts don't come from Santa.
Yeah.
And he doesn't come into our house at night and do
And if a man dressed as Santa does come into the house, let us know.
Please, yeah. So in her 2-year-old mind, she knows that's how she goes, oh, Christmas, Jesus' birthday cake and gifts. That's her logic.
Did you have that conversation with her before or after the picture with Santa Claus?
Before.
Did you have that conversation with her before or after you had... Because I noticed, we haven't talked about this yet, but I noticed you have a black Santa Claus and some black elves.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta imagine if you hadn't told her that this is just if you had been like, no, Santa's real, that would have been jarring.
Yeah.
It's but wait a second.
No, again, it's a mascot.
Yeah.
It's
fair enough.
It's in my daughter, to listeners that don't know, my daughter is adopted. She is of black skin. And so we do the black Santa, we do things of non-white skin just so there's representation around the house.
I don't.
So yeah,
I think it was in Guatemala.
But our house is not majority. We don't decorate even much for Christmas.
Yeah.
We don't like decorating.
One of the Christmases that I was in Latin America, I was at a mall, and there was the guy that was the mall Santa was a very, very tall, very, very skinny black man. He was like a basketball player. And I was just like, none of this makes sense.
But more importantly, Jesus was a white baby. I think we can
all agree that Jesus was a white man.
The three of us watched. We tried to record this episode 2 days ago, and we had some technical difficulties. So instead of recording, we watched a couple SNL sketches before we ended up just going home. Yeah. And one of the most recent episodes with Adam Driver, there's just this little quick little side thing where they show this nativity, and everyone at the nativity has American flags on them. Yeah. And I love how uncomfortable that is.
Yeah. I hate it so much.
I appreciated it because it's so bad.
Did your family do Santa?
Oh yeah, that's
growing
right.
up.
So they attempted to.
You're the youngest of 3, right?
Yeah, youngest of 3. They did Christmas. We did receive presents from Santa. I didn't think much of it. However, when I was 4, maybe younger, I remember it. Mm-hmm. My grandpa used to take me to the mall and get me my present for the year. Mm-hmm. And I would go see the mall Santa. Mm-hmm. I was wearing one of those really puffy jackets that kids always wear.
Yeah.
The Velcro, the zipper, and then has the Velcro on top of it. Well, the Velcro got caught on Santa's beard when I was sitting on his lap. I jumped off. Oh, no. So did the beard. Me and 30 other kids saw Santa become not Santa. Mm-hmm. And so after that, I was always very, very skeptical of Santa as a person.
Is it okay that I love this? Okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's amazing.
It was traumatic when I was 4, but...
Yeah. So, what North Americans understand Santa Claus to be is an amalgamation of a handful of different European traditions.
Sure.
And then what we visualize Santa Claus as is entirely put together by Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
In the 40s or 50s. Mm-hmm. Largely based off of Father Christmas, which was a British tradition, but he always wore green. Mm-hmm. And then and then they made it red because that's Coca-Cola's colors.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the polar bears.
And it's the second color of Christmas. red and green. Green and red?
Yeah, but he was
No,
already green.
Jesus is the first color of Christmas.
And he's white.
Got him.
Got him.
You're a much better Christian, Jeff.
Sure.
All right, sorry, back to you and your feelings about Christmas movies.
So my family did Santa. It didn't really take for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm much more okay with the idea of not doing Santa. My wife, however, their family did Santa. I don't know how long they did it, but they
Does
did
your
it.
wife still believe in Santa?
She does not believe in Santa, but she
I
does
wouldn't judge her
want-
if she did. I'd just be worried about her.
She does want the nostalgia that she wants Frankie to have the same
Awe
kind of
and
nostalgia.
wonder.
Yeah, like her parents did like the flower on the floor, I think, and then footprints. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
along-
baking flour,
and then
okay.
the carrots
I hate that.
and like somebody.
I hate that
It's
so
a lot.
much.
It's a lot to do.
The stupid elf on the shelf thing. Like,
That's like within the last 10 years.
I know, but
hate
but
it
it's the
so
same thing.
much.
Like, you see posts every day on Facebook, like, oh, there's an elf on the shelf. Here's my like stop.
My
So
sister-in-law,
you-
literally like 2 weeks into it, she was like, "I'm so over this thing."
Nothing
the one that I
describes
hate-
you as more. Never mind.
The one that I
I'm
hate
sorry.
more than Elf on the Shelf is all the memes of, you've heard of Elf on the Shelf, well,
Oh,
here's...
yeah.
Except for Mention a Bench, that one's hilarious. There's the Hanukkah one.
Dreidel, dreidel, I'm in an ugly. Her family did Santa, so we're debating on the Santa thing. Christmas movies in general, not a big fan of, but this movie specifically, the moral of the story is just like an act of kindness makes more kindness.
It falls on humanity.
A true
Yeah.
selfless act always sparks another.
That one. Just like that's from the movie. I think that's like a super good moral for a story to have. I think it was super well put together, perfect amount of comedy and actual storyline and all that. So
Yeah.
super good movie. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Definitely going to be a movie that we watch as a family.
Yeah. It's so much fun.
Just because
Even
the
if
amount
you-
of Christmas movies that my family, like I participate in,
Yeah.
is very few right now. It's definitely going to be on the list of the ones that I do watch.
And this one really works well, whether you are the Santa Claus is fun to pretend or Santa Claus is real. Like, regardless of what you do as a family, this one will work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely both storylines.
And we just real quick, I do want to note the animation of this film is beautiful.
It's computer animated and made to look like it's hand animated.
It's
And
it's really beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Like,
Absolutely
it's-
gorgeous. And it was nominated but didn't win Oscar for Best Animation that year.
Dirtbags.
Lame.
So here's some of the
Totally
other animated movies of 2019, and once you kind of get the full picture, it's like, okay, I can kind of see why this didn't take the best one. So Lego Movie 2, the second part,
I like this better than Lego Movie 2.
How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World,
Way better than Lego. This one still reigns supreme so far.
Wonder Park.
I don't even know that one.
It's charming, I recommend it. Missing Link,
I don't even know that one.
and those are like, Toy Story 4, actually, I think is the one that got Best Animated Picture.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Secret Life
Which,
of Pets
it wasn't
2.
great. It wasn't
just
great.
the same as the other one?
No. These are the ones that came out in the same year that won awards over Klaus. So Toy Story 4 was not great, but it doesn't surprise me that it won.
Yeah. So there's a Frozen 2 also came out almost. Basically, this was like the only one that wasn't a sequel that came out that year. But it got beat up by Toy Story 4, I think, for Best Animated Picture.
Okay. This movie was out of the ones you've listed, this is the best animated movie of 2019.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. Is there any other facts before we get into some biases? Does anyone else have any other loose, lighthearted, whimsical?
No.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to get this one out of the way.
Do it.
I'm so nervous to bring this up.
No, do it.
Do it.
I'm not nervous because I'm actually going to end up siding with you. This movie has a very pro-education theme in this movie.
Yeah.
And you and I recently had a good discussion about our different perspectives. Nelson and I specifically.
This was an off-air conversation.
Off-air. It was right before we recorded an episode.
A heated off-air conversation.
It was heated. Coming from two different perspectives. But I will say, this movie doesn't make a stance on public schooling. It just makes a stance on the importance of education.
Yeah.
So,
And we agree on that.
Right, and we absolutely agree on that. Education is by far important, and I think it's more important when the house, the home, the parental, the providers of love and care, there it is, thank you, have the majority
That's
control.
the Cleveland Guardians.
The Cleveland Guardians, but yeah. It's mostly, it's utilized best when the guardians of the children are fully invested and involved with that education aspect. If they're not just relying on someone else to educate their kids.
Yeah.
If they're not just relying on someone else to spiritually educate their kids at church. Oh, yeah, my kid knows Jesus. They go to church every Sunday. If they my kid's smart. They go to school every, it's bigger than just going to an institution to get that knowledge.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this movie is very pro-education in many different ways. There's a couple different things that are brought up, but it doesn't go in a way where it's pro-public schools. It doesn't go so yeah, I had to bring up the education aspect, but
no, I have it here in my notes too. So what I have here in my notes is the kids don't learn anything until they're ready and they're motivated.
Yeah.
The parents don't care and don't make it a priority, but they also don't need the parents to care once the kids do. Right. Once the kids were motivated to learn, it didn't matter what the parents thought about this.
And I think there's a good imagery of there, like the kids didn't care because the parents didn't care. It's like that,
I think
they were looking into the eyes of their future because their parents they were just destined to not care because that's the town they lived in.
I don't know if that's entirely fair because once the kids cared, it didn't matter what the parents felt. I think that parents caring about education helps kids to find the value in it. But also, I know all three of us know kids who their parents cared so much that the kids rejected it. But once an individual is motivated, it really doesn't matter a whole lot what other people think. They are now motivated.
Yeah.
People have to find their own motivation, and it's a parent's responsibility to help the child find the motivation to learn for themselves.
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that culturally, what you see in most movies and shows is that kids hate learning. I think you see I don't want to go to school, I don't want to do my homework. But I think the important thing to realize is it's not that they don't like learning. I think this movie does a good job of showing that kids do like to learn things. I think how they learn things and the structure in which they are made to learn things is very important. I think that's what you see in most cultural depictions of education, where the kids are not wanting to participate and be involved, is most because school is not fun.
Right.
And it's not designed to be fun most of the time.
In fact, it's designed to crush creativity and be not fun.
Sure.
And a good teacher is able to make it fun and inspire creativity in spite of the system.
Correct.
Sure.
Correct. I think there are classes that are specific, are designed for creativity. So I'm not saying, just because you're in school doesn't mean it's all being squashed. I'm just saying, art is literally the class of art is designed for
right.
art.
But you ask any art teacher, and they'd say if it were up to them, if it wasn't up to the curriculum, they would do it in a totally different way. That would much more inspire creativity. That would much more engage children.
Sure.
Cassie Sinchok, right? She's an artist. She was an art teacher, and she's commented on how because of the way the system's designed, because of the way the structure is in place, it really hamstrung her as a teacher to inspire these kids. And the kids that didn't care held back the kids that were excited. Again, it's a situation of the structure is the problem, not the fact that people, as we've said before, I don't oppose education. I don't even explicitly oppose schools. I oppose the monopolization of education through public schools.
I think the character arc that Alva has is a good depiction of how some teachers are to what some teachers' initial thoughts of what they wanted to happen are. Because at the beginning, she's like, I just want to get out of here.
I'm so tired of this.
I'm so tired. I'm saving up my money the best that I can so I can just move on from this. And I've had, people in my family who are teachers who have moved on from teaching. And
they just feel entirely squandered and almost resented.
Sure. I think other good depiction is that she uses the majority of her own money to get a lot of that stuff done without a lot of help, which is what a lot of teachers go through.
Which, and on that real quick, the per student cost of education in public schooling is twice of private. Mm-hmm. And private teachers do not spend out of pocket nearly the way public teachers do. So where's all that money going?
Right.
The lottery.
So yeah, I think it's important to note that kids do like to learn in the environment where, like you said, I think when they're ready and motivated to learn.
And a good educator helps them find that motivation.
There are a lot of good teachers out there.
Oh yeah.
Want to teach and have the passion for teaching, but have been burnt out in a lot of different ways by different parts of the system that have taken a toll on them.
Yeah, because the system is designed not just to quash the creativity of the children, but like teachers enter into public education not knowing it is what it is.
Sure.
Right? Like John Taylor Gatto was a public educator.
In the ghetto.
That's Elvis.
New Girl, sorry.
John Taylor Gatto
Jessica
was a
Day,
public educator for 20 years in the state of New York, several times over won awards for being the best public educator in the state of New York. And he put together a collection of his essays and speeches called Dumbing Us Down, the Hidden Curriculum of Public Education. And in it, he basically says over and over again, my job as a public educator is to build cogs for a war machine and to train, and to aid the school to prison pipeline. This entire system is designed to break the spirit of children and educators. And that's why I don't hate teachers. We need teachers. I hate the system that they are funneled into.
It's a hard system.
Yeah.
To succeed. I did not succeed in it.
My wife is a school teacher.
Sure.
Yeah.
My grandmother was a school teacher.
Right.
You can succeed in it. It's not impossible.
I didn't say you can't succeed in it. And he was talking about students specifically.
Right. But also teachers, if you were to pull all the teachers, I guarantee you're bound to find some teachers that are very happy where they're at. They're very happily doing what they're doing. You can't say it's everyone or everywhere or all schools.
Sure, and I don't think
Nelson, I know you're going to say you can.
I can
you can
and
you will, yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
Again, Jeff, I don't know if you heard me. I said the system.
I agree with you. The system's not great. Just like the government. It's not going to disappear.
I wish it would.
But it won't.
I wish it would.
Yeah.
I don't think it can be reformed. I think it needs to be abolished.
This is one of those things where I don't necessarily... I find the merit in the institution, but I'm open to options.
Yeah. I'm glad that, I'm definitely not just just being super trained. My wife's a public school teacher. Yeah. And I also work at public schools right now.
I know. Substitute,
I'm easy. Yeah, but I'm substitute.
No, I don't.
I know. No, I was
even if we entirely privatized education, we'd have substitute educators.
I was getting it. I'm and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I'm honestly considering going into the education system, going back for my degree. But
I'm not criticizing educators.
I know that, but
educators are critical and important.
It's not impossible to work for a system that's corrupt and love your job.
I didn't say that either.
Right, but I don't. But you're to be anti public schools.
Yeah, that's correct.
You would be missing some of the things that are happening that are positive. I don't know how to explain it. Or how to give my
I think a
words
lot
out.
of the positive things of public school would be transferred if they were private.
Exactly.
I don't think everything would be solved just with the abolition.
What would not be solved?
The things. I just said that. I don't think the things would be solved. I clearly said, Nelson, I don't think the things would be solved.
So my brother is a teacher. His wife was a teacher. I have cousins who are teachers.
I've subbed for your brother.
Yeah, he's dope.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's great.
And they're great teachers. I think they would they would succeed in any teaching environment, regardless of whether it was public school or private school.
They'd be far better compensated in a private system.
Not necessarily. Maybe yes, and in some senses yes, but that can't just be a blanket statement privates will always pay better than
That's not what I
public.
said. Better compensation. Compensation is a lot more than just your salary.
Okay. I have my feet because I'm subbing. I'm in a private school and I'm in a public school right now, and they're a lot more similar than you would think when it comes to staff's reaction of how schools are run. Like there's a lot more similarities that I'm picking up on between my two jobs right now than there are going, oh, these are drastically different, night and day. Oh, I was wrong about private schools. I can definitely go like they're a lot more similar, even from the teachers and the leadership and the faculty perspective.
Yep.
So like I'm glad we have options. Public school, yes, is run by the up and ups is run by Washington. I'm not a fan of that. My wife's not a fan of that. But going down to the actual like the buildings, the single buildings and the counties and stuff, like there's enough that's. I'm so afraid to say things because you just tear me up no matter what I say. Like I can't get my thoughts together. Like
I will wait until you're finished articulating your thoughts.
And I'm having a hard time piecing my, because like I respect your opinion. Like it's not a perfect system, but private school is also not perfect and homeschooling is also not perfect. So like just because you're so anti public school doesn't mean that the other two are way better. All three have their flaws. For different reasons. Not for the same reasons, for different reasons. There's no perfect education system, and I think it comes down to the child. I think some children can do well in a public school and thrive, and not come out a product of the system, and be militant. I'm not would you say I'm a product? Like, how would you describe, what do public schools create? You said they're designed to create what?
Public schools have three intentions in mind.
Okay.
There's a school to prison pipeline.
Okay.
There's a school to military pipeline.
Okay.
And a school to factory pipeline.
Do I represent any of those?
How many factory jobs have you had, and how many of your opinions would you consider to be within the mainstream? And also, how much as an adult have you looked at history and be like, wow, that wasn't what I learned in school. In fact, U.S. history is a lot more complicated, and far too often we were the villain.
I've worked in one factory.
You've had more than one factory-type job.
Factory type. You said factory.
Okay, fair enough. You have very... less and less so, but you have fairly mainstream opinions on a lot of political things. And you've articulated several times the fact that you are disappointed with the way history was taught to you. There's a very specific reason that history was taught to you in that way. And it's to make you this word has some connotation to it today that, the word is nationalist, but the best word for it would be patriot. Okay? The purpose of education, of public education, is to make good citizens. And anybody that can't be a good citizen, anybody that can't fall in line, that's what the school to prison pipeline's for. Now, you are not military stuff, but also
easy. I can do a push-up.
This was. I'm using your own.
Just one.
I'm using what you've said yourself. Neither of us are military stuff. But also, we came up in an era when there wasn't really a draft.
Correct.
Okay.
We've technically never seen a war.
A legal one.
Correct. You're right.
Right? And so for us, the education system existed to make us patriotic and to make us good employees. Contributors to society. Okay. That on its face, not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But you've articulated several times your frustration with how your education was at best misleading, if not outright dishonest. And so I would say that you are actually, quite honestly, and I do not mean this in an insulting way, a success of public education. You are almost exactly what they're trying to accomplish.
Okay. In what ways? Besides my besides my semi-liberal perspectives on some things, possibly just I have some perspectives that aren't necessarily like super Republican or super there's some things within the church that I disagree with that I would be considered liberal in some church perspectives.
Okay.
With some of the things I believe. But anyways, beyond that, so you'd say I'm worse off because of public school. Knowing me, you say I'm not. I don't know how to word. I'm so jumbled because I know this is a hot topic and I can't get my thoughts together.
Yeah. I think our entire generation, Jeff, was done a disservice in the way we were educated. From a public education standpoint, you and I are both products of public education.
And I love you. I think you're great. I wouldn't change a thing. Your beard's a little out of line. I'm sorry.
I do.
I'm just kidding.
It actually does
Ben's
need
also
trim.
public school.
Yeah, Ben. You don't have to raise your hand. You can jump in anytime.
Okay.
And there actually is a really great example of product of public education.
You're just kind of going back and forth, so I just wanted to make
You can
sure.
yell at any time.
Sure. So I think it depends on the definition of public school that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, like, when a government talks about public school, I think Nelson's pretty correct. But I think, like any system, the farther down you go on the chain of that system or the level of that system, the less and less the source has an effect
Correct.
on the fringe. So, like, I grew up in a very rural, small school, which has the ability of being very, very, like, self-sufficient. There's definitely some things that were mandated that are still followed, but I do feel like a lot of the teachers that I had a little bit of leeway to not always follow the curriculum or teach how they wanted to teach, and I think towards, like, the bottom of that fringe and the outskirts of that, there's definitely teachers who do, like, an amazing job, and the success rates for those kids, I think,
right.
If you looked at rural schools to city schools, I think the success rate's pretty obvious. And I think those city schools are what's more focused on by the government, and those rules are more heavily like looked at and enforced.
Yeah.
And I think on the outer edge, so I think a lot of the people that I know who are teachers are in those smaller rural schools and are great teachers and have the passion and the ability to make those more successful outcomes that aren't necessarily direct successes of the government's idea of the social system, though I do know people who are in school with me who would fall into that category.
Yeah.
I did not fall into that category. I also didn't do super well in school. I think there's definitely some similarities in that, but I think you guys are both talking of the same thing, but at different spaces. Like, if the government was the center of a sphere and schools branched out from that in the sphere, I think the majority of what you're talking about is correct, but is mostly found on the outskirts of that circle, which I mean, the farther out you go, the more, arrays they are on a circle. Like, the more, there's a lot of schools that fall into the category that you're talking about.
Right.
But I think you're speaking to the center, the intent of the public school, which definitely becomes an outcome on all levels of that circle. But I think what you're speaking of which is also correct, but the intent, the government intent of public schools, not necessarily the outcome of all public schools or all teachers or all classes in general.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And so to go a little further there, because Ben, you might not have said Jeff and Nelson, so our audience might not know who you're talking about.
Sorry.
But
Nelson's talking about the center circle, and Jeff's speaking more towards the fringe outlier, the more like
it's something that Jeff and I have talked about in the past, where when you're talking about issues like this, systematic issues or systemic issues, people have a tendency to one person talk about the generalities and another person talk about the specifics, and then they'll switch. And they'll switch back and forth. So if I'm talking about the generalities, Jeff will talk about the specifics. I'll move to the specifics, and he'll talk about generalities, or vice versa. I sometimes I'm the one that's causing the switch. So in the generality, what was the intention of public education? It goes back to the Prussian Empire, and it hasn't changed since then. So this is King of Prussia, the Emperor of Prussia. Noticed that his generals that were educated had lower mortality rates. He put two and two together and said, hey, if I had more educated generals, it'd be better. So I'm going to have a state-mandated education policy. And the U.S. adopted basically verbatim what his plan was. John Taylor Gatto, again, documents this pretty well and talks about it. And the purpose is I want to make good citizens. I want to make patriotic citizens that make good soldiers, that are good contributors to society.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but as the government deteriorates, so does that.
That's a good way of putting it.
Projection.
And then it also fails on all the same ways that any monopoly fails, right? The cost goes up and the quality goes down. Now, you pointed out that the private schools that you've worked with look very similar in many ways to the public schools that you've worked with. And as we've discussed, in any...
From the ground level.
Yeah.
From the ground level.
And as we've discussed, in any truly decentralized market, in any market-driven solution for an industry, you're going to see so much variety. Because public education is de facto monopolized education, a lot of private schools are basically just public schools with a private cost.
So how would you know you found a private school versus a private public school?
That's a really terrific question.
Like what would the difference look like?
Yeah, and that's this is going to come back to something that we both agree on, which is
AIDS is bad.
Parent involvement.
Oh, that too.
That
yeah.
bad.
Now, I do want to push back. You said that homeschooling isn't perfect, and as I've referenced a ton of times, Thomas Sowell's, I think, such a perfect quote, which is, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. And homeschooling is not a perfect solution, I'll grant you that, but statistically, you take our average public school graduate and our average homeschool graduate, the homeschool outperforms the public school graduate on every metric that we measure our education system. Even if we weight this entirely in the favor of a public school student. So let's say that we have a public school student, his parents are still together, and both of his parents have college degrees. And in the homeschool student, his parents are divorced, he's being raised by a single mother, effectively, and she only has a GED. Those two students, on aggregate, the homeschool student still outperforms. So you must ask yourself, what's different about these education systems? And again, I'm the first to agree. Homeschooling is not perfect. There's no solutions. There are only trade-offs. And yet, given these trade-offs, one of these dramatically, consistently outperforms the other. The only thing that I can come to as a satisfying conclusion is that the public school system does not work. I think that anybody that went through public school and succeeds in spite of it, not because of it. Jeff, how many times have you seen memes about things like, I wish that school had taught me how to pay my taxes, but at least I know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell? And how often do you, in day-to-day life, actually need to know what the powerhouse of the cell is, or what a mitochondria does? Almost never.
I think the better question is, why do I have to pay my taxes?
Yeah, also problem, different question. And actually these two are dramatically related. The fact that you have to pay your taxes has to do with the fact that you know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, because our taxes fund this public education system that even the best performing teachers in it believe isn't working. They say something's fundamentally wrong with this, and they don't know what the solution is, and that's fine. They don't need to know what the solution is, but they recognize that something is wrong with it. And you're right. A lot of private education is just public. I don't want to give too much away. The private schools you've worked for, are they secular or Christian private?
Christian.
Okay. I'm curious how much secular private schools take risks in how they handle education. Because a Christian private school, all that they're offering that's different from the public is, we are Christian. And I think there's a lot of value to that. But I also think that they're missing out on an opportunity to really try something different, apart from just being a Christian version of the public school. I think a lot of Christian schools miss an opportunity there, where all they are is a Christian option alternative to a public school, rather than let's really try something different. Let's really change things up, because they have the opportunity. And if we didn't have the monopoly, if we didn't have the public option, the private options would be way more competitive. And in being competitive, they would take risks that the Christian private school doesn't have to take. The Christian private school doesn't have to take a whole lot of risks, because all they're really competing on is, we aren't secular. That's the whole competition there. I do not think the problem is the educators. I love educators. I think educators are important and vital and necessary. My problem is that we have a monopoly on a system that is so important, and we are entrusting it to an organization that so many times has proven itself to be entirely to put it lightly, disreputable, right? But downright evil so many times, and proven itself so many times to not have our best interest at heart. And why do we trust our kids with it? I cannot. It's a square peg in a round hole for me.
Okay, so I think it's possible to succeed in a public school setting. Again, I think I would agree with that in spite of the center public school system. The most important factors is having teachers that care and are involved, but also having parents that care and are involved. I think homeschooling is great. There's a bunch of families who have a different scenario going on that homeschooling doesn't always fit in.
Yeah.
And so public school for a lot of people is the only option. I don't want people who are in that situation to feel like, well, I don't have a choice but to send my kid to public school. I guess he's going to be screwed up. I think your kid is definitely able to succeed in a public school setting.
Yeah. I feel like I've succeeded having a public school education. Like, I'm happy with my life. Like, I don't see myself as what Nelson would describe as a product of public school. Like, I don't fully put all my faith in it. Just like
I want to be clear. I think all three of us are.
Right.
All three of us are a product of public education.
Right. Like, and I've got no qualms. Like, I enjoyed my time in high school. I was but in general, like,
me too.
Like, yeah. So
it requires grown-ups.
Yeah.
To be involved in a child's life and almost every aspect of a child's development. Having an adult, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a parent, because some people don't have parents.
Correct.
Some people, the influence of their parents is great.
Actually, everybody has parents.
I don't know. There's some genetic modifications out there.
I bet you there's more people than we are aware of.
That we are aware of?
We don't are aware of.
I don't know if I could have said that better myself, Jeff.
That are not walking around that have been built. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a keen insight. Thank you.
So for me, this isn't a dig at my parents.
Years of wisdom.
But both my parents had jobs growing up.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of involvement they could have in me doing homework or me like studying or me participating in the public school system. So it's really not their fault. But I did have teachers who were really good teachers who took an investment in me.
Same.
As well as adults in my youth group who took an investment in me, adults that were parents of friends that took an investment in me. The key there is having an adult take an investment in a kid's education and development and learning in all aspects, not just education. That will help a kid go a long way, regardless if it's homeschool, public, or private. Either way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for options. It comes down to the child.
Sure.
And that can even be...
I don't disagree.
No, right. And I think even within a one-roof home, like, I think within that house setting, I think different kids within that family could need different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just in general, like, you're on the radical side of like wipe out public school, but in general, like, I'm glad that we have options, because of the three options, we have public, private, and homeschool. I know someone from each who have had a great experience and have had a bad experience. It depends on the kid.
Because I agree is actually why I think we need to get rid of the public school option. Whenever you have a public option for anything, and not just education, public mail delivery, public policing, healthcare, whatever, as soon as you make a public option, it de facto very, very quickly becomes a monopoly and becomes the standard. And the standard, as we've seen so many times in so many monopolies, is often not the right way to do it. Because every kid is different, that public system, the biggest failure of the public system is how it tries to say, hey, this is what you need to be a good student, and force every kid into that mold. And every kid does not fit that mold. And that's why I want more options. And the only way to get more options is to eliminate the monolith. But I entirely agree. Every single kid's different. I got 3 of them. No 2 of them are the same.
I think you both agree on like the majority of the minutia.
It's nice to have a moderator here.
And like, it's hanging on some things that you guys don't agree with.
We both agree education is fundamental.
Yeah.
We both agree that parents should be
champions of
the
education.
champion, the controller of what comes in and out of
a child's life.
We
both agree that school is not necessarily, for every child, the best way to pursue education.
I don't know if we both agree on that.
Okay, so then you think that a homeschool system is not ever the right solution?
No, okay, maybe I misheard what you said.
So I don't think that school... So education and schooling are different things, right?
Yeah, well, okay. I
Right?
think I know what you mean by
So
that.
like a school would be like a formal environment where there's an educator and the student, and the
Yes.
educator is
Okay.
like lecturing, and here's the books you need to read, and I'm going to grade
Okay.
papers and what's up. Not every student, and even from subject to subject can vary. Not every child is going to thrive in a school environment.
Correct.
Some children should not be in a school environment, but
Correct.
still, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be educated.
No, they should still have some sort of structure in their life that's giving them a diversified perspective of different things that are going on in their life.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, like, education and schooling are not necessarily the same thing, and schooling on a school curricula type thing is not the solution for every kid.
Yeah, correct.
Ding.
Is that the battle bell?
Yeah, I rang the battle bell.
You
so I
rang the
guess I have to
battle
stop
bell.
fighting.
No, we're not fighting. We're both very passionate, and
Idiot rang
I-
the battle bell.
I do come in with a bias because
Yeah.
you know, like I
I
had a great I look back at high school and I love it.
yeah.
Like I also look at my life and I think it's like I like the views I have. Like I like where I'm at, but I also think like I'm in line with what I need to be in line with.
Yeah.
My wife's also an educator in a
Yeah,
public school, and I also work. Like it's like I do. A part of me does feel like I need to defend it, but not out of obligation, but because like I do believe in it.
Yeah.
Because I had a good experience. I know it's possible for kids to come out of a public school and go, yeah, I have what I need.
Yeah.
Like I've left church with bigger issues than I've left public school functions.
Of course.
So like,
but I would
I think
also
it's
say-
just any institution. There's going to be reason for issues,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
but that doesn't mean you can't have positive outcomes. So I don't think abolishing something is going to be the solution to anything, except slavery. Always abolish slavery.
I don't.
Let's try to have a better outcome.
Just because something can have positive outcome does not mean that it ought to be rehabilitated. Sometimes a thing that even has positive outcomes ought to be abolished. And I know that we agree on this because there are plenty of examples from slavery where the outcome was actually a success or positive outcome in spite of the system. Frederick Douglass is an incredible example. And I would say that those are in spite of an evil system. I think you can have successes even in an evil system. I think that there are plenty of examples from public education of people that in spite of the system were successes. I don't think that the existence of a success means that it's worth rehabilitating. I still think our future generations will be best served if we entirely abolish the public education system. And I understand why we disagree with this. I think that what your wife does is remarkable, incredible, and
she's had
and even
impact,
more success.
immense impact on students.
And I think even more
Jeff's
important.
wife is awesome.
And I think even more important than your average educator, because your wife handles a specific area of education that I think
Hair loss.
is even more
Hair loss education.
is even more precious.
Hair loss
Working with students that are
She works with the students that have IEPs.
improvised, explosive,
Individual education plans.
individual education plans.
Students that have some
From our
higher learning requirements.
Okay, so when we were kids, this would be special education students.
Yes.
Okay. And I think that that's just a remarkable and beautiful and incredible thing. And I wouldn't want to see that disappear. And what we know from history is that before public education, those children still had their needs sought after. And because of people like your wife, in a purely private situation, those children would still have their needs sought after because of people like your wife who see the value in it. I don't want those children's needs not being sought after.
Agreed.
I want their needs sought after, and I think that the current system is not serving their needs as well as it could be. And I think that the best way to get their needs met would be a radical transformation that would likely not involve the system existing anymore at all.
Well, there you go. I don't disagree with your motives or with your.
Well, our motives are the same,
right? With your and I also agree with your distrust in people telling us what we can and cannot do in constricting education. It's like constricting any sort of
trying to create a one size fits all.
Right. I hate that.
Yeah.
I just.
Yeah.
I am emotionally attached to this, but in the same time, like just like the government, like I believe in it because I have to, and also I'm hopeful in that good things can come out of it because there's no way it's going to disappear.
Would you say
public school won't disappear? So it doesn't matter what you and I are going to argue. It doesn't matter like the conversation we have. Like public school won't disappear in our lifetime.
William Wilberforce, if you had told him,
okay,
do you know who William Wilberforce was?
Yeah, he invented the airplane. And
Orville Redenbacher,
the popcorn guy.
Ben, do you know who William Wilberforce was?
I know who Wilbur is.
Wilbur.
So William Wilberforce, linked below is a movie about his life called Amazing Grace. So William Wilberforce,
the Chris Tomlin biopic,
was a British slave abolitionist. He saw slavery as a thing that if he spent his entire life battling, he lived a good life. But it's very unlikely that he would see slave abolished in the British Empire in his lifetime. But he was going to battle for it anyway. And when he started down that path, 20 years later, he successfully abolished slavery in the entire British Empire.
Yep, him all by himself.
And if you had told him when he started, hey, 20 years from now, slavery would be abolished, I'm sure he would be like, I'd love for that to be true, but there's no way it's going to be abolished in my lifetime. It's just too big of an institution. It's been around for far too long. It's so integral to so many aspects of our culture. And yet, in his lifetime, less than 20 years later. And so, if that's true, if we were able to abolish slavery from the time William Wilberforce started on the project, why isn't it that public education can't also be abolished? We haven't always had public education in America. So why must we always have it in the future? Why must we always have it in our lifetime?
I would be skeptical to think that you could abolish something like that. Like,
and William Wilberforce would be skeptical to think that you could abolish slavery in his lifetime.
Just as I would say, like, we would be given full self-governance from our government, and government would stay out, and we wouldn't have to pay taxes. Like it's the same type of skepticism.
Sure.
It'd be great if the government just said, you know what, you do what you need to.
If in 2014
we'll step back.
you had told me that in 2 years Donald J. Trump will be president, I would be as skeptical as you are.
I would have believed that.
And so,
money talks.
All I say is,
I would have believed.
When people say that can't happen, why? Why can't that happen?
Okay. It's weird how we've switched from. I went from being the idealistic to like, now you're going to like an idealistic scenario, and I'm like, the reality is we won't lose public schools.
Yeah,
it won't happen.
That's an opinion, man.
Like it is.
That's
it
just
is.
like
it is an
opinion, man.
It is an opinion. Like yeah, I can't back it up. Like I like just like because the government relies on it so much.
Yeah.
It won't disappear.
But I will say,
the government would have to be completely wiped out for the public school education change.
Jeff, I will say, let's even assume that you're right, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't even assume I'm right.
Let's assume you're right. It absolutely will not be eradicated in our lifetime. You, the listener, who have children at home, you have the option to opt out.
Or not opt out. That's what opt means. Just to clarify what definitions are.
The movie's not about mail. I mean, it is not about...
Yeah.
It is about
the
mail.
Next thing I was going to throw out there is the Postal Service. There's a mess in Smearsburg, and it's this mess in here.
It's a mess everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, Ben, was it with you that I was having this conversation Sunday?
I think so.
It was the three of us.
When
the UPS.
Yeah, and
USPS.
I had the observation, it's the first time I've ever articulated this, and I think it's really funny. You talk to a police officer about the issues of the education, with policing, and they say, you know what? Yeah, there's some real big issues in policing. You talk to teachers about the issues with the education system, and they say, yeah, some real big issues with education. But you try to tell a USPS guy that there's problems with the Postal Service, and man, do they just link arms and like, we will not be...
There's nothing wrong with us. We're the best. Yeah.
Don't mess with the Postal Service.
Mess you up. They won't deliver your mail. on time.
There's
They might not do that in general, but they definitely won't do it if you mess with them.
So we've talked for a while about education and all that stuff. I really want to, because we're not going to have a whole lot more time in this episode, Jeff. I really want to talk about
I should not have brought up the education.
I want to talk about the biggest theme in this movie.
Santa.
A true selfless act always sparks another. And that's what Klaus says to Jesper. And Jesper says everyone is out to get something. Ben and Jeffrey, what do you think of this?
Everybody's out to get something.
That was Jesper's response to Klaus's statement, and he was quoting his wife. A true selfless act always sparks another.
I think one is more true than the other. I think a selfless act sparks another more often than you can say that everybody's out to get something. Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Ooh. I'm sorry, we covered that in May of last year.
Sure. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. It's a quote from Star Wars, but you cannot use an absolute as a fact. So you can't say this always happens, this never happens, this never will happen, this always will happen.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Because you don't, it's non-falsifiable.
Right.
You can't say that it won't happen, you can't say that it will happen because you don't know. It's good marriage advice for people who are getting married.
Oh, thank you,
Don't
man.
deal in absolutes.
Thank you.
When I was growing
don't
up,
say
my
you
parents
always
would
do
always
this,
say,
you never do this.
That's the one.
I'm
Yeah.
looking to get married. So.
Lindsay, she's right out there, bro.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm hopefully with her.
Growing
Sure.
up, my parents would never let us say always or never in arguments.
Sure. So saying somebody is always out to get something is a pessimistic view, which in a lot of cases can be true, but doesn't necessarily mean it is the truth.
That line is essentially the storyline of Pay It Forward. You know, like it's the exact same concept from the Haley Joel Osment movie. Like, if you do this act, it'll spawn a ripple effect. Which
Do you think it's true? Do you think it's true that a selfless act sparks another?
I think it has a selfless. It should say a true selfless act has the ability to spark another.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this, and this is what gets into the real meat of what I want to get
It's probably
to.
fish meat.
Is there such thing as a true selfless act?
I can only think of one. We had one pickle in the fridge, and Lindsay let me have it.
She let you have what?
Are you familiar
The
with?
pickle.
Oh, okay.
The pickle.
Are you familiar with the
We both
film?
put our hands on the jar at the
I thought
same
she yelled
time.
at you.
We looked at each other. She's like, "You have it, dear."
I thought she was mad at you because there's only one pickle left.
Turns out that was
Let you
actually a
have it.
test, and Jeff failed it. He was supposed to give the pickle
so
back.
that's why I'm.
Man, Jeff,
oh,
come on.
I'm,
Are you familiar with objectivism?
I objectify things all the time.
I objectify Jeff constantly.
He is.
He's
a stud.
just a piece of meat to me.
He's about to get thrown on the barbecue. Jeff, do you know who Ayn Rand was?
Those are my parents' names, Anne and Rand.
That's true. I've always thought that was hilarious.
Ann.
A-Y-N. So some people pronounce it
A-Y-N.
Ayn.
Ayn Rand. Oh yeah, it's what the
Not right.
the Jamaican bobsled team says before they go down the. No, I don't know who that is. Ayn Rand.
No, they say bombaglat. Sorry.
Cool Runnings. No, what
Ben,
is?
are you familiar with Ayn Rand?
I have heard the name on multiple occasions.
She's most well known for The Fountainhead, Atlas Shrugged, Anthem. Those are the books.
Are
that
these
she's
song
best known
names?
for.
Oh, they're books.
So she grew up in the Soviet Union and then moved to America. She defected to America. And Ayn Rand is not actually her actual name. And in fact, the entire time that she was married, her husband didn't know her real name.
Yannick
She was a Russian
Ravinsky.
spy.
That's how distrustful she was of people because of living in the Soviet Union. And she created a field of philosophy called objectivism. And one of the core tenets of objectivism is that, as Jesper puts it, everyone is out to get something. And there is no such thing as a selfless act, according to Ayn Rand. That every time you do something nice for somebody, it's because you're getting something out of it, even if what you're getting out of it is the feeling of, I've done something nice for somebody.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Ayn Rand outside of the redemptive work that Christ does in us. Outside of that, every good thing is for a selfish motive. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just a true thing. And Ayn Rand would say the same thing.
Can I rephrase what you said, though?
Sure.
Like, you said everything good is for a selfish motive. I don't know if I would phrase it that way, but I would definitely say every good thing has something, you can gain something from it personally. You can do a good thing without a selfish motive. I believe that. But that doesn't mean you can't gain something from it that's positive. Just the way you phrase that, I've done many good things in my mind that wasn't selfish, but I did gain something from it. So like I think I agree with what you're saying. It was just the way you phrased it,
right,
struck me wrong.
I think that's where people get most comfortable with Ayn Rand. She doesn't think selfishness is bad.
Oh, well, I like her. Yeah.
So she wouldn't say that being selfish is necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
In fact, she would argue that selfishness and ambition are the only things that move society forward. She wouldn't argue that. She's dead. She would have argued that.
Ben, do you believe in ghosts?
So this movie, I think Ayn Rand would just really hate it, because the core claim of this movie flies in the face of objectivism. I think it also flies in the face of human nature. I don't think having a true selfless act, assuming that such a thing exists, always sparks another. We've already said we don't agree with the objectivity of the always, or the
absolute.
The absolute of always.
Sith Lord.
And then Ayn Rand would say that the altruism of true selfless doesn't even exist. And I'm inclined to agree with her here. I think a kind act often sparks another. But I don't know if outside of Christ's work in our hearts, a selfless act exists.
So in that, if you take the idea that only Christ dying on the cross for us is a selfless act.
Mm-hmm. The only true selfless act.
Sure.
Yeah.
As Christians, we can never be Jesus.
Right.
But our goal is to strive to be like Jesus.
Right.
I think the statement, a selfless act always sparks another, is an attempt at pointing to the idea of striving towards a selfless act to have a net positive.
Yeah. Right.
Whereas everyone is always out to get something is a focusing on a soul positive from somebody else that might have a negative outcome.
Now, there could be an argument for the fact that, and we're all Christians here, so this is more just devil's advocate here, but like, Jesus wasn't selfless. He had to die for a reason. There was something to gain by him dying.
There was a mission there.
Right. I'm very grateful that it happened, and it's definitely an act of love that I've not done in my life. So it is definitely something that I can't fathom. But in the same sense, even Jesus dying, there was a reason for it. True. And Jesus didn't just disappear. He had work to still do, and that was part of the work he had to do. It was a step. It was a step that none of us could do, but it was a step.
So would you say then for something to be selfless, it has to be unintentional?
Not unintentional, but for the person that does, this is how I'm interpreting it.
Yeah.
For the person that does something selfless, with all due intents and purposes, or whatever the phrase is, we're assuming that would mean there's no kickback at all. Right? Selfless would mean no kickback at all. Now, granted, Jesus died, spent 3 days in hell, and then rose, but inevitably still ended up ascending to heaven and having,
the glory of God was achieved. He is God.
Right. And he wouldn't have achieved that if he didn't do a sinless life and then a sacrificial lamb sacrifice. He did a selfless act. I would still define it as a selfless act, but there was definitely something to gain from it. We all gained from it. And he went on living from it.
I guess it would,
that's the way I'm interpreting it. Again,
so the glory of God was the end result.
Yeah.
In that. And you could call that a kickback.
Right.
But I do think the glory of God would have happened regardless of whether he chose to do that.
a perfect sacrifice had to be sacrificed. Like
For
it's like-
us,
right? Well,
but the glory of God, separate from us, would have been in existence and would have
maybe he
happened.
would have found a different way.
Put another way, because whatever Jesus did was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
If, for whatever reason, instead of what actually happened, Jesus had chosen another path, that would have been the right path to choose because he chose it.
Right.
The glory of God would have happened regardless of what happened.
Right.
I think the reason it can be considered a selfless act is because the result of that was the glory of God, which would have happened regardless,
Right.
as well as our salvation, which wouldn't have happened regardless.
And Jesus was 100% man, 100% God. So like the God part of him definitely got a kickback from that. Like
Sure,
maybe the man part was 100% selfless.
I don't
But
think, I don't think
Jesus
God benefited anything from this. God benefited nothing from Jesus' sacrifice. God requires nothing from us. He desires our worship, but does not require it.
That was my point. Is that like God's glory would have happened regardless. It's not us being saved is not a prerequisite of God's glory.
Right.
So I think what you said is true, but I think you had it flip flopped. I think
thongs. So I've been watching a lot
flip flop.
I've been watching a lot of Bluey.
That's
They
not the
call it
song I
thongs.
thought about.
They call them thongs.
Sure.
You really stumped me for a moment. I was like,
Thongs. I think that because Jesus was fully God and fully man, I think the fully God part of him did not require that to happen. I think the fully man part of him was required for that perfect sacrifice that would have saved us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Either way, I think the theme in this movie, the main, I do think there's some errancy in it.
I remember watching.
I think it's the errancy and how it's worded, but I think the idea of it, like I said, is the striving towards.
Yes. The message I can get behind.
all
that
the,
self-
The belief of the altruism of
yeah.
the ripple effect. It's not that simple.
I love this movie, but I think all the errors that come from it come from divorcing the Christmas story from the Christmas story.
Which happens a lot when you do
You'll shoot your eye out.
When
with
you
that,
try
kid.
to make Santa Claus a effigy of joy, you rob people of what really brings joy. When you try to make Christmas a season of peace but divorce it from Christ, you rob people of peace. I remember watching this movie. If I can find it, it's linked below, but I don't even remember the name of it. But it was about this guy that traveled forward in time. He was like a theologian in like the Renaissance era, trying to debate that we could divorce morality from Christ, and we could teach morality on its own, and that would make a moral people. Then he traveled forward in time to like 1990s, 1980s, and he saw how morality divorced from Christ on its own was not sufficient to create a moral people.
Time Changer, 2002.
Really? Did you find it?
I just Googled time traveling theologian.
Might be it.
It's
Read me the synopsis.
a Bible professor from 1890 comes forward in time to the present via a time machine and cannot believe the things that he sees.
That very well could be it. Well done.
I'm trying to.
Good job,
I'm
Jamie.
trying to see if there's any.
Good job, J-Mo.
There's no like.
That might be it. Let me see if I can.
Look it up.
That's it. That is 100% it.
I'm a very poor Mark Norman.
5.2 on IMDb.
Time Changer?
Time Changer.
Off to 50 people. Submit it. And that message really
Put it
stuck.
in the chat. Sorry.
You
Even
gotta
though
subscribe for
even the movie was very much a mediocre movie. Was that Wilford Brimley?
No, I was just
Mediocre
looking.
movie? That's Shrek.
No, he looks like Wilford Brimley. His name's Richard Reel.
The message of that movie really stuck with me, and I think that this movie is a really good example of it. Where this movie fails is because it's divorced the Christmas story from Christ.
Yeah, because I think the actual Christmas story is the start of that selfless act of Jesus that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And without that actually being the center of the movie, that's where that sentence, that line in the movie kind of loses its meaning without it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as a true pessimist, I definitely think there is some merit in the everyone's always out to get something. I think that's
I think that's a more true statement.
I think it's a very plausible answer to most questions of people's motives.
And the thing is, like, everyone is out to get something. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Sure. I think it's meant as a bad thing in the movie.
Right. Jeff and I have argued in the past over what idealism is.
You and Jeff argue.
We love to argue.
I mean, that's why we're here.
What?
So Jeff and I have argued
Different
and
perspectives.
debated and discussed in the past what idealism is and which of us is more idealist.
Sure.
And I don't shy away from the term idealist. It doesn't offend me. Everyone is out to get something is cynical. And I think that the best way to take advantage of that, what I believe to be a true statement, is with a free society. This is a Norm Macdonald line, which I really love. This is his last line in the movie, I believe.
Best.
Well, that's a first. Never saw a postman look more miserable leaving than on the day they came in. Oh well, best leave it alone, I say. I'm sure it's nothing that could fester and eventually become a source of resentment and regret. I don't really have anything to talk about there. I love Norm Macdonald's style.
Yeah.
You know? It's just like so dripping with sarcasm.
I'm curious if he was able to be a part of the writing of his characters.
Yeah.
It's like, because like, if he wasn't, whoever wrote for him
wrote in his voice so
incredible.
well. Yeah.
Like spoke for him verbatim.
Oh,
it
yeah.
felt like, like I can't imagine, like, I'm curious, like, if Norm was like, what his perspective was of like his character, like,
so
like he was
Norm
great.
also had a character in the show, The Orville, called Yaphet. It was like this green slime monster. And again, like, I think they gave him a lot of room to be like, hey, this is kind of like what we'd like you to say, make it your own. And it just feels so Norm, and that's part of why I love it so much. I don't have a whole lot of like worldview claim to talk about here, but I do think it is an interesting statement of like, hey, you're his dad. You might want to make sure that this doesn't become a thing. This could have some serious long-term issues if not addressed.
Yeah.
There was a quote here, and I'm just pulling for discussion here. I didn't really have much to add to it. Just I think there could be something here. Mrs. Crumb is talking to Mr. Ellenbow.
Yeah. So that would be Joan Cusack talking to Will Sasso.
This town was built on resentment and spite, and it'll stay that way as long as a Crumb
or an Ellenbow,
have something to say about it.
How have we not beat you? That was one of my favorite lines in the movie.
What came to my mind hearing that and then seeing this play out is like, I've not read the book Tale of Two Cities, but like there's clearly like this idea of like, and I'm referencing in my mind the VeggieTales story of the two towns on the hills.
One of those shoes, the other those pots and pans.
Yes, like, and just like, but do you think there was some stuff taken from different cultural or like some other cultural works for this duel of towns, or like just like
this feels
like,
more?
Did it represent civil war in a way that there was more depth, or was it just strictly for the idea that they wanted to have a battle bell and it'd be funny?
The idea of that is something that's like kind of scattered through all history, like Hatfields, McCoys, like
Capulets and Montagues.
Yeah, different.
I think Tale of Two Cities. You shouldn't have said you didn't read it, because man, did you seem like a literate person there.
You are a
really.
I would have appealed to the Hatfield McCoys because that's like people that existed. But
West Virginia.
The Tale of Two Cities I've also not read, and I ought to. Romeo and Juliet. You know, you got the Capulets and Montagues.
They dance battle. No wait, that's West Side Story.
Sharks and Jets,
which is also Shakespeare.
But also, West Side Story. What's the one with the greasers and the socials?
The greasers.
Ponyboy. Kid brings a knife to a gunfight.
The Outsiders.
Outsiders.
Is that The Outsiders?
So this is like a theme that echoes through literature, but as we saw with the Hatfields and McCoys, also happens in real life.
Yeah.
Feuds are a funny, just a bizarre thing. Have you ever had a feud, Ben?
No.
Not even like a family feud.
Sure.
Oh, that's what you're doing. Nice. Family Feud.
Okay. All right, cool. No, but I've seen it happen with people where people have argued about something, regardless of whether it's silly or whether it has merit or not. And they. So I guess like the majority of the time that I've seen it is, I've like been like, man, these people don't like each other. Why don't they like each other? Hey, wait, their parents don't like each other either.
Mm-hmm.
Why do their parents not like each other? Do their grandparents also not like each other?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's happening right now? Mm-hmm. I think, and the way that you know your parent is essential in your education, they can also be very instrumental in your social life, where feuds spring out of people being so angry with somebody that you forget why, and it becomes
don't even remember why you're mad in the first place.
It becomes a personality. It's like,
yeah.
I'm this person, and we don't like these people.
Part of your identity,
right? And just like anything in any identity scenario, identity politics, identity whatever, at that point, for people to be involved in it, it doesn't have to have merit for an individual. It has to have had merit at some point for it to exist. It doesn't even necessarily have to have had merit at some point to have an existence, but it usually has some sort of merit at the beginning. But whatever strains off of that, if it's continued, does not need to have merit or rationality involved in it at all for it to continue. It just needs to be something that's taught to somebody and said that this is who you are. As long as that person finds acceptance in that group, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. If that person feels accepted by that group, if that person feels welcomed in that group, that person feels involved and listened to and respected in that group, they're going to be a part of it, regardless of the actual motives of why it started or how it happened.
I think Bloods and Crips is another example of that too. It's just gang warfare. Yeah,
the kids in it now don't even know what happened at the beginning, besides that they weren't the same gang, and now know that
but
the Crips,
there's some cool dance moves that have come out of it.
Yeah, I think that the majority of the people in the Crips or the Bloods probably don't even know why they don't like the Bloods or the Crips. They just do, because that's
listeners. If you know why the Bloods and Crips are feuding, please write in.
Please tell me. I'm uneducated in the field.
I'm actually legitimately curious.
I can do the blood symbol with my hands, but that's pretty much it.
But you shouldn't.
I shouldn't.
Yeah. Now
you should do that while Crip walking.
I don't know if I know how to Crip walk. I don't think I'm.
The universe might implode if you did the Blood's hand symbol.
There's something to say about generational. I don't know if it even trauma is the word, but just generational lies or generational tradition that doesn't need to exist anymore. Like, I think it is okay. Personal boundaries are one thing, for there to be people in your life that are toxic and you go, we don't need this and we can mutually just part ways. That's one thing. But then for the next generation to go, oh, well, we can't go play at their house because mom says we can't go play with their kid. Like that's when it
mom said no.
Yeah, that's when it becomes like, and I think, and that's that could become a very easy trend. Or just a very slippery slope, I guess is what I'm saying, not a trend, but it's just, I think it's a very easy thing that can happen.
Yeah.
And just these, and then you get two just generations down, then all of a sudden you're like, wait, why? I use this example. I was teaching a couple weeks ago, and I used this example. It was around Thanksgiving time, and it was just this analogy of this person sharing the story of why they cook the turkey the way they do, or it was a ham, and they're like, well, first you got to cut the ends off of each side of the ham and put it in the pan and then cook it. And they go, and then the child goes, why are you cutting the ends off the ham? And then the mom goes, well, no, it's just what your grandmother did. And she goes and asks Grandma, why do we cut the ends off the ham? Well, I didn't have a pan big enough to fit the whole ham, so we only it's just crazy. Like the facts ends up getting watered out or washed out. And then you're just left with, oh, that's just what, yeah. It's just, I'm just echoing what you said. Like, it's just, like, I've seen stuff, like, I've seen more of the ham situation in my life than I have, like, actual feuds or, like, excommunication type things. Like, I've seen more of just the smaller, dumb things of, like, well, it's just how your parents, it's just funny how those things can go. And you're like, why does this need to happen? Another big one is, like, both of my parents worked at churches for different seasons. And it's like, and back in the day, we had Sunday night service. And it's like, for me, it was like, well, if the church is open, we've got to be there. Now, as an adult, I'm like, we don't have to do every event the church does. But for a while, that was a weird feeling for me because I was like, if the church is doing something, I feel like I need to go. Because that's how I grew up. I was like, that doesn't mean it was right. It's just like, the church is doing something, we go as a family. And now as an adult, I'm like, yeah, we're not going.
Sure.
Like, we'll pick and choose.
I think, and I know, I realize in the movie they have backstory.
Well, just a little line. I've got that quote here too of how they describe it, but they don't go too deep into it.
Sure, and I think the difference in definitions between a good or a bad tradition is your ability to truthfully recount the tradition.
Yeah.
So like, you could say that being a Christian is a tradition in my family because my parents were Christians and their parents were Christians and their parents were Christians. I think the difference between it being a good or a bad tradition is the fact that I was not only told to, but expected to dive into the history of that tradition to make it my own tradition, to truly understand what it was as a tradition and what it was as a religion and choose it as a person of myself. I do think that they're like the ham situation where, oh, I don't know, that's just how grandma did it. There's no diving into the actual reason for why it's happening. You just know that it has happened and it should continue to happen. I think a lot of those traditions that end up being bad traditions lack the explanation of why they're traditions. And if they, sometimes intentionally, because if the actual origin of that tradition was told to the person, they may or may not agree with it. So I think like it doesn't actually go into the actual like what happened. They just said it goes back to the caveman days of the...
For as long as anyone can remember.
Yeah. It goes all the way back. They don't know why. They don't know the actual specifics of what happened. And maybe one would be more justified than the other if you knew what the actual incident was that happened. The problem is that nobody who's alive actually knows.
Yeah. Right.
And unfortunately, and I'm going to make this slightly political, I would like to point out...
We don't do that here.
That
we try to avoid talking politics on the show.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who choose one side or the other on politics.
Right. Based on what their parents did.
And have no actual understanding of the events that led up to both parties existing.
I can attest to that.
Or what both parties have done or are doing or what their stated goals are. They're just, this is what my mom was, so this is what I am. This is what my dad was, this is what I am.
Or, this is what my dad was, and so I'm not that.
Right. Or even like outside of parents, like growing up, and I know it's changed now with recent events and stuff. Like growing up, I always correlated Republican to Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a Christian party and then there was a secular party. Like so that was the thing. And that's the way my parents voted too. It was like, well, you know, not everyone's perfect, but Republicans are more Christian than Democrats.
Right.
Just as a whole. And I'm like, and then growing up, I'm like, oh, okay.
That's what you're saying.
And so, the only truth to that is that there are more Republican candidates that claim to be Christians than there are Democrat candidates that claim to be Christians.
But the amount of politicians that are moral
almost zero.
It's unequivocally.
Thomas Massey.
Yeah.
That's it.
I like that guy. He's pretty dope. So,
politics.
Tradition-wise, I think it's very much dependent on the actual origin of the tradition.
Yeah.
And if as a parent you're wanting to not impose, but present a tradition to your kids, you should know a lot about it, and you should present all of the information to them to let them make an educated decision on whether they should keep the tradition.
And I think there are some things we've talked about parenting before. Like there are some non-starters, you know, when it comes to raising kids and like things that are like, you know, especially from a Christian perspective, there are things like, no, this is the truth.
And a non deep tradition that my parents had, and I'm not following, is my parents have themes. I don't know if your parents have the same thing. My mom, her theme is like snowmen. So like during Christmas, she just has like a bunch of different snowmen knickknacks.
My mom too.
My mom is penguins.
Yeah,
My mom
it's a
has snowmen
thing
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a thing that they have where it's like, well,
It's-
I have a theme and all my decorations
the
are these.
kitchen was roosters. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My mom had a theme.
So
in
my
town,
mom's literally
yeah.
asked me before, like, you know, what's the thing? Like, we
Is
don't
that-
do that because it makes no sense.
Well, hold on.
I love it.
Let's be careful here, because is that a
Mom, I
our
love you.
parents' generation thing,
It is.
or is that a women thing? Does your wife have a theme?
She does not.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure, unless you've seen one in my house that I'm.
Boy, have I.
Ben,
What's the theme in my house?
It's a color theme.
Oh, you mean the absence of?
It's very beige,
Yeah.
but it's a
Ben,
it's a
we
very
wanted to
beautiful
surprise
beige.
She's
you.
into neutral.
your wife's actually here right now.
It's very.
Bree, go ahead and walk on in.
Shh, don't say that. She likes neutral tones.
Yeah.
And she likes it to be like
Beige.
bohemian, like farmhouse.
That's
Yeah.
technically a theme.
Neo Viking chic.
There's just not a mascot to
The
it.
occasional chrome axe on the wall.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
So I think it's not so much. What's the whole thing? It's like if men didn't have women, we wouldn't have furniture. We'd have like a mattress on the floor. That'd be good enough.
That's not true.
Yeah,
and
I would.
Women have a civilizing effect on men. And
That's
like
true.
there's a lot of stuff in my house that I appreciate having, but wouldn't be there if I didn't have the civilizing influence of my wife.
Yeah, when I was single, I ate ramen noodles in bed every night and watched
And
TV.
now you get out of bed to eat your ramen noodles.
I have to.
My
That sounds like a joke, but
when,
it's not a
when
joke.
I lived in Columbus, besides my bed, my furniture was the boxes I moved my stuff in.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
For the whole year I was down there. My
I
nightstand
lived-
was a box.
I
The
lived
end of my bed,
in
boxes.
a prison cell at Matt Schwann's house for...
Yeah.
Well, that's because you were
In
a
prison.
naughty boy.
I was.
You were a naughty
so
boy.
naughty.
Shall
So
we
naughty.
I left my
wrap
stuff
up?
downstairs. Didn't do the dishes.
Yes,
Wow,
we have
that's not
wrap-up
funny.
questions. Would you guys recommend this film?
Not only would I did.
Oh,
I also did, and I will.
Who did you recommend it to?
Everybody
I recommend it.
who consumes movies and isn't blind.
I recommended it to my wife as soon as I finished. I was like, Lindsay, this should have been one you should have watched with me.
Yeah, so we've been trying to watch...
Congratulations!
Yeah, she's
I thought
already
you were
pregnant.
Did it work?
It did. She's
That
pregnant.
was really quick!
I know, right? It's so
Congratulations.
good. Thank you. Oh, you guys are the best.
Do you know the gender?
It's a girl.
Oh my goodness!
Congratulations.
That happened so fast.
I was telling my wife that we have been trying to watch a Christmas movie every night that we have to sit down, which isn't always every
Right.
night.
Hockey's
Hockey's on.
on. I got you.
That was on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Um,
Go Preds.
but the next movie that we're watching is Klaus, for sure. I definitely want
Cluster
Bree to see it and Frankie to see it. I think
It-
Frankie would love it.
is rated PG for pretty good. No, parental guidance. Would you guys change the rating?
No, I think that's fine.
I think it's good.
It could almost work well as G. Like there's it's not frightening. It's not like
But G basically doesn't exist anymore.
okay.
Yeah, Alva and Jesper kiss. So.
Yeah. And there's
Oh,
there's
I replayed that back. I know.
there's also cartoon violence.
They only throw the axes at each other.
Intending to hit.
Although I did, when the boat guy was explaining to Jesper the conflict, and one guy shoots a cannon through the other guy's house. Whoever was in that house is dead.
There's also
for sure.
the dog that chased Jesper.
Sure.
In the 4 years this movie's existed
Mm.
on screen,
Yeah.
has it aged well?
I think so. I don't think
so.
it's.
I think they need to remake it.
I don't think it has anything in there that anybody would be upset
I
about.
want to see a live action version. Steve Carell plays all the characters
No.
except the one by Norm
Not
Macdonald.
only would I not
who
like
will
to
be
see
AI by Norm Macdonald.
Not only
No.
would I not like to see
Him in
this-
person. Dig him up.
I for a while I
R.I.P.
thought that they were working on a sequel, but the director has said that there will not be a sequel.
Good.
Not
It's
if
good
I
on
heard.
its own.
I think it's
You
great.
don't have to make it
Excellent.
better.
I don't think the sequel even makes sense. if you were to have a sequel, it would almost be like a Santa Claus, the Tim Allen type thing where Jesper takes up the mantle. But no, I think this works great on its own. I love.
You do realize for Jesper to take up the mantle, he would have to die because that's what Klaus did.
No, that's the thing. When Klaus disappeared, they talk about how every Christmas Eve it still happens. So like, one has to take up the mantle. That line
almost makes me cry. Once a year, I get to see my friend. That's such a beautiful.
So
line.
no one has to take up the mantle because Klaus does it from the other side of reality still.
Yeah.
So no one has to take up the mantle.
Right. But if someone did have to take up the mantle, Jesper would have to die to do that.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's not needed.
What if they do a spin-off?
Sergio Pablos.
Alva and Jesper's Fish Emporium. Anyway.
Fish school.
Teaching
school.
people how to fish.
Fish school. Jesper and I was fishing, male fishing school.
Male fishing school. I love it. Oh,
send sushi to your friends.
That one would definitely win awards, except there'll probably be another Toy Story out the same year.
Send sushi to your friends with a grammatically correct letter.
Would this movie be in your personal top 250? I was building suspense.
Personal top 250?
Yeah,
I don't even know if I like 250 movies, but if I did, it would be on there.
Okay. Can you name 250 movies?
I don't.
Go.
If
Lord of the Rings
aware
1, 2, 3, Star Wars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
If you're aware of 250 movies, Ben, then you have a top 250, even if number 250 is a movie you hate. That's because that's how top works.
Yeah.
That's true. So yes.
So if you know more than 250
by default.
Movies, okay.
I think that this would be in my top 250.
It's definitely my top 3 Christmas movie.
Oh.
What are the other 2?
Oh.
One of them is Die Hard.
Yeah.
And the other one...
Elf?
There's only one right answer.
Christmas Story?
When my wife hears that you said that, she will laugh.
She hates that movie, or you hate that movie?
I hate that
movie. Which one? Elf?
Elf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Christmas Story, do you hate it?
Christmas Story is not great.
It's a Wonderful Life?
What about the movie, the animated
It's a
movie
Wonderful Life is nostalgic for me, but I wouldn't say it's a good movie.
where all the dolls come to life?
Toy Story.
Stop.
The Land of Misfit Toys.
How do you feel about Small Soldiers?
Haven't seen it. I think it's either Home Alone, the first one, or Santa Claus with Tim Allen, the first one.
What about Lord of the Rings?
I've seen all of them. And their extended versions. But they're not Christmas movies.
Yes, they are.
How are they Christmas movies?
They have elves.
Okay.
That's what it is.
I reopen it and say you're wrong.
I mean, in that case, it's more Christmas than White Christmas, the movie White Christmas.
Okay. A man uses elves. Actually, hold on.
To deliver destruction to Mordor.
I think there should be two, before you get to your answer, I think there should be 2 categories: winter movies and Christmas movies.
Okay.
Because like a lot of times people put like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie. They'll put that as a Christmas movie.
It's
I was
not
like,
a Christmas
no,
movie.
it's a winter movie. It does talk about winter. Santa, the character's in it.
Theological themes, but it's
But it's a winter movie.
It's a winter movie. It happens in winter.
Frozen, not a Christmas movie. The people that argue Frozen is a Christmas movie is ridiculous. That movie takes place in the summer.
Yeah.
But it's a winter movie. It could be a winter movie. It does take place during a winter, but yeah, it's just fascinating. Like, I think there should be 2 categories when it comes to this season.
Die Hard,
Christmas movie is a Christmas movie.
Is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and so is Iron Man 3. It's the same director as Die Hard.
Is that what makes it a Christmas movie?
No, but like that director is known to use the same themes. Christmas trees. It's on Christmas Eve.
Nice.
The same. They share same elements.
Sweet.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen Iron Man 3 recently, you'll notice a lot of similarities.
I have.
And they're both good movies. Die Hard's better.
Die Hard's better.
Way better than Iron Man 3.
Here is my.
I'd like to finish that.
Here is my Lord of the Rings is a Christmas movie argument.
It's a music.
It's a music. It is very amusing.
It's a musical movie.
Okay. Both Santa and Sauron bring gifts. Both Santa and Sauron are supernatural immortal beings. They both see everything. They both, your experience with them will depend on your moral conduct. And both of them, elves help them to create the presents that they brought. Lord of the Rings is a Christmas story.
But does it happen?
It's a Christmas parable.
Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is definitely a Christmas movie.
Really?
Yes, Santa Claus is in it.
Right.
I mean, Santa's in it, but that doesn't mean
That doesn't mean yeah. Okay, so in that case, the Santa Claus
theme
2
of the movie is not Christmas.
Santa Claus 2 or Santa Claus 3 is one of the ones.
All of the
like,
Santa Claus movies are definitely
No, I'm saying,
Christmas movies.
but the Tooth Fairy's in it. The Easter Bunny's in it. So in that case, it's an Easter movie too because the Easter Bunny's in it. It's an Easter
would
movie.
you say The Guardians is a Christmas movie?
I remember loving that movie. I haven't seen it in a while.
Watched it the other day with my
It's a
boys.
great movie.
Yeah.
I need to watch that one again. Like
Actually, they watched
Let me say,
that.
just because the character from a specific season's in it doesn't make it that seasonal movie. Like, yeah, I know Santa Claus is in the Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. Like, he's a prominent part of he brings the weapons to the kids and stuff so that they can do violence.
Mm-hmm.
As every good Santa
Yeah.
should.
But
Shoot your eye out.
just because he's in it doesn't make it a Christmas movie. Just as much as the Easter Rabbit being in the Santa Claus movie doesn't make it an Easter movie.
Right.
It's the same argument.
Is the Easter Bunny?
Yeah, it's because
Santa
the
Claus
Tooth
3?
Jack Frost is in it. Jack Frost is in
See,
it.
this is why I didn't
Dwayne The
watch
Rock
it.
Johnson's in it?
Yes, it's they're not great if you haven't seen it. Why do you think this movie is on the top 250?
Beautiful story and beautifully animated.
Agreed.
For me, I would flip it. I would put the artwork first. I think like the art because like at first like I was excited to watch it because Nelson. I respect your opinions on almost everything.
You do?
On almost everything.
I don't. I think Nelson's kind of dumb.
And more importantly, I respect you. But I was eager to watch it because you spoke highly of it. But the moment I saw the animation, I'm like, ooh, you've got me. The soundtrack's a little lacking. Like the music element's not there. So as far as like
the music's just fine.
the music's just fine. But yeah, it's like for me, like
it doesn't add to it or distract from it.
I'd say it's those exact same two things. But for me, it was the artwork that I think trumped the storyline just a little bit. But they were both grand, both wonderful.
Super good.
Yeah, definitely worth watching. I apologize for taking so much time on the school thing. There's more things to discuss in this film, but I think we definitely got the big nuggets.
I think
Love
that you wanted to have the conversation, otherwise you wouldn't have brought it up, and I think that's fine. I think it was a conversation worth having.
It was worth having. Like I wasn't expecting because we'd had this off air beforehand. I knew like
some of the broad brushstrokes
Right.
of what my opinion would be.
And I also know, which we've acknowledged before, I'm not great at debating things. I'm not a knower of facts. So like I can't stand behind a lot of my things outside of just knowing that like I've experienced it and it was good. It can't be complete like that's my extent. It's like I never want to like it's hard for me to debate facts when I like okay, yeah, I mean like those are probably true and yeah, that doesn't make them absolutes, you know, like so yeah, but it was a valuable conversation that I think people can benefit from. You and I going back and forth and like the three of us talking about like am I right or wrong? I don't know. I don't think there's a perfect system created by man that exists out there.
Sure.
If humanity has touched something, there's faults in it. So like I'm not gonna say something needs like just so yeah. So that's my thing is like there could be glimmers of hope in everything. So like So anyway, we're gonna get an email on this episode.
I love you so much.
Jeff's gonna get an email on this episode. The majority of our listeners probably lean more towards what you believe, Nelson.
I don't read emails.
I don't think that's probably true, actually.
Really? You say majority of our listeners are pro-public school?
I think that the majority of our listeners rightly understand that I'm a radical and say things that they don't entirely endorse, although they might understand my motives for saying them.
Okay. It is, however, the radicals that will speak up and send the emails.
That's probably true.
So the people that agree with me won't say anything.
They don't
it's
feel
the people that are
strongly
like,
about
Jeff
it.
is wrong. They'll let us know. So,
if you
but
do
either
agree with
way,
Jeff, subscribe to the Patreon and let him know.
That's right.
Because he loves you.
I'm open for alternative options in everything.
Yeah.
Okay, not everything. That's an absolute. but just in general, like I think options are good. And when government has their hands on things, there's issues. And I see that. I have a hard time being radical about eliminating something that I didn't have a bad experience with. and other people don't. But other people drastically do. And I acknowledge that. I don't disagree with what you said. I just don't think the radical side, that radical stance it's hard for me to comprehend or agree with.
Yeah.
But I love you, Nelson. Like, I love our conversations, and they're valuable. Like, and I'm glad that I don't push back on every episode, so I'm glad that you and I have had a chance to rub shoulders a little bit. And we'll continue to rub shoulders.
I'll rub both your
Sometimes we rub each other the wrong way, but far too often, Jeff, we rub each other the right way.
Yes.
I've witnessed it.
Thank you for being on, Ben. Now, we are switching something up to our listeners.
Switch it up.
For reasons that will later present themselves, we will have a guest on next week's episode as well.
That's right. We're alternating the schedule. So instead of going guest list, we're going
guest list.
Yeah.
So next week we are joined by our good friend,
Three-peat guest,
Hat Trick
Connor.
That's a hockey reference, Ben. I'll explain.
I don't know
it to
if
you.
you're familiar with it.
like
There's a
that.
sport called
Do not talk
hockey.
to me.
It's a sport created by the
Is
Russians
it a
and the
natural
Canadians.
hat trick?
And Connor will be on next week. And this time, he specifically requested
A military,
not a war movie.
Not a war movie.
So join us next week for
Saving
Privates.
War Pat.
War. What is it good for? Absolutely
No country.
nothing.
Say it again.
Say it again.
No country for the elderly.
No country
just
for
the
old
older,
men.
the old men. So
Put the elderly
That's a
on an ice
Coen-
float.
that's a
send it
Coen
out to
Brothers?
the sea. I believe it is.
No
Okay,
Country for
so-
Old Men.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Ben, thank you for coming on. I can't imagine this will be the last time. It's always a pleasure talking to you, sharing experiences and sharing stories and perspectives.
I love both of you very much. I love this podcast. It's good.
Thank you.
We
Appreciate
love you
that.
too.
Subscribe to the Patreon, Ben. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did.
If you found value in what we discussed today, please consider leaving us a rating and review. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
If you have any feedback or suggestions, we would love to hear from you.
That's right, tell us why we're wrong.
If you want even more content and ways to engage with us and each other, check out our Patreon page.
By supporting us there, you'll get access to exclusive bonus content and help us continue to create high-quality episodes, as well as help pay for our future plans. Links to our social media, merchandise, and Patreon are in the show notes.